to the far wing. Slap to the front of the goal. The stick of Alex Tuck breaks. It's 3-on-3. Blues just have to contend with it. Peterka in now with the extra man back on for Buffalo to the wing, and they score. Bennington dove over but just couldn't get there. And the Buffalo Sabres get the overtime power play goal and beat the Blues by a score of 4-3. 1 minute, 33 seconds into overtime.
That's what it sounded like right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN last night, as the St. Louis Blues do get a point, but do not get the win in Buffalo. It was a 4-3 final score with Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN, a beautiful Friday edition here on the show. Alex, the story really, though, was not overtime. It was not Sonny's penalty. It was not Brandon Saad with a couple of goals. It was, unfortunately, not even necessarily the defenseman injury that they have once again suffered. It was the decision that they made to not play Jordan Kyrou in the final 4+ minutes of the game. Kyrou's last shift ended with 4:38 to play in the third period. He was replaced at that point by Oskar Sundqvist for the final 2 shifts of the game with Buchnevich and Neighbors. On that final shift, Jordan Kyrou hit the post.
And Sonny's final shift?
Took a penalty.
Huh.
Not ideal.
And then
In his defense, it was a soft penalty, okay?
It was a penalty, though.
maybe not hit the goalie.
He didn't. He was pushed into him.
After the game, Drew Bannister was asked about the decision to not play Jordan Kyrou in the final 4 minutes. Here's what he had to say.
Well, we just, I'm putting players out there right now that, we want to make sure that we get at least a point, and it has nothing to Jordan. I thought Jordan played great. I thought the team played great, and, I wanted to make sure that, we made sure we got the first point, and then hopefully get it to overtime, and obviously, Jordan's great in overtime. So, but overall, I thought all the guys played extremely well.
All right. So his explanation is effectively, yeah, we have a better chance of being able to get a point when we don't have Jordan Kyrou on the ice in the final 4 minutes than if we did. And Alex, it's kind of hard to argue that given what the recent history has been. 2 games recently, a turnover by Kyrou has directly led to a goal going in your net and you losing the game and not having a point. You would have 2 more points if not for 2 decisions by Jordan Kyrou late in games. So if the stated goal is to get as many points this season as they possibly can, the decision was correct. It was a smart move by Drew Bannister to not put Jordan Kyrou back out there again on the ice. But if the goal this year is to be in the midst of a retool and to get these guys these opportunities in big situations that they're eventually going to have to be in when the team is good again, it was not a good decision because these are the kinds of things that Jordan Kyrou is going to have to work through. And this is now 2 straight games that the Blues have had a late opportunity to get a point in a game, and Bannister has kept Kyrou off the ice. Did it against Boston, now did it against Buffalo. Alex, is it the right call? Is this the right thing that Drew Bannister should be doing with Jordan Kyrou?
Yes, it is. And I had a BK problem last night. Got a little Tony with some people. Happens. It is fascinating to me how 2 weeks ago when he turned the puck over against the Philadelphia Flyers, it was lighting up Jordan Kyrou of making a dumb decision. And then a week later against the Utah Hockey Club, has the same thing happen and getting lit up because, see, he turns the puck over. Dumb decision, shouldn't be out there. And then when the coach looks at it and says, hey, we got to get to overtime. We're down 2 defensemen. We had 2 forwards skate off the ice. Right now, we've got nobody. We need to get to overtime to get a point. Everyone is up in arms because, your best sniper's not on the ice to try and win the game. Isn't that what we were complaining about 2 weeks ago, that they tried to win the game when they should have won it in overtime and picked up the point? I looked at that as a couple of different things. One, Kyrou at the time, did not deserve the right to be out there on the ice in that moment because of the 2 situations when you turned the puck over. You put Oskar Sundqvist on the ice, and a lot of people were fighting back at me saying, well, why not Braden Shen? Braden Shen just took a previous shift, so he wasn't available to go back out there. Your options were Oskar Sundqvist and Matthew Joseph. Would I have preferred Matthew Joseph in this game?
Joseph isn't 100% right now.
And Matthew Joseph had been on the ice for 2 goals against earlier in the game. So at the time, not your best defensive forward. Sundqvist is. Sundqvist doesn't take that penalty. Dumb penalty, but you don't take the penalty. You get to overtime, it's 3-on-3. And as Bannister mentioned, the first guy on the ice for overtime is going to be Jordan Kyrou. But at the time, in the moment, it doesn't make sense because he has not done what is needed to be done to get to overtime. The other thing that came to mind to me as I was talking last night with a tone problem on postgame, I go back to what Jamie Langenbrunner told us earlier this week. And, we talked to him about, how to get that winning mindset from a group of younger players. And he said, look, it's tough. Right now, you got to win. But he said, you also have to get little rewards. It seems like a participation trophy to sit there and say you got a point against the Buffalo Sabres. But you know what's worse than losing 4 straight with that 4th one in overtime? Losing 4 straight in regulation where back-to-back games you cough up a lead in the 3rd period. I think that was a lot more of the coach looking at a team that was lacking confidence and saying, we've got to get us some type of cookie right now. Get it to overtime, potentially get 2 points because you're 2-0 in overtime. Buffalo's 0-1 in overtime. Get there and then reset the team. I did not mind the call. Sure, I understand frustration of you got to win the game there. But we were complaining about that 2 weeks ago to where rather than win the game in regulation, win the game in overtime.
T-Bone, I know you disagree. Tell us why.
I see this, and I think we all agree. It's a retool, right? You mentioned the turnovers in the Flyers game and the other turnover that we've talked about in the past with Jordan Kyrou. And what did we say the next day? We weren't up in arms about him turning the puck over. We said these are learning moments for Jordan Kyrou. Well, we're still a learning moment last night, being on the ice in the final 4.5 minutes. It doesn't matter for the Blues this season? The point. This is supposed to be the year in which they are having these growing pains, right? And that isn't just for the Bolduc. That's not just for the Holloway. That's not just for the Broberg. It still is for Jordan Kyrou. And for me, Jordan Kyrou needs to be on the ice there. And it's twofold. One, I don't want to take my best shooter, my best goal scorer on the roster currently, out of a game with 4.5 minutes to go in regulation in a tie game against an Eastern Conference team where the 4-point swing doesn't necessarily matter. Second fold for me is, and maybe the most important one, is it is a retool. The most important part this season is him getting those learning experiences. He should be on the ice for the final 4.5 minutes. We all agree he's playing a better all-around game this season. Yes, he still has made some big turnover mistakes that have cost you a point. That point doesn't matter for me. I get what you're saying of, well, it ends the 3-game losing streak or you're on a 4-game losing streak still, but you got a point. Get a little cookie. I don't care, man. He needs to be out there and be learning through these experiences because there's a chance that I still want him on the ice when they're winning again. There's a chance I want Kyrou to be the guy in a Western Conference game going against maybe the Winnipeg Jets, for example, in like 2-3 years, to go on the ice in the final 4.5 minutes, potentially win the game for me in regulation, and potentially have that four-point swing.
See, I think that told you everything about how they view Jordan Kyrou, because in any other circumstance, he's not on the ice in that spot. If you're healthy, and I know you're not healthy, last night on the ice was Robert Thomas, Pavel Buchnevich, and Jake Neighbors. Like, Hitch used to do this with Vladdy all the time. In a tie game, Vladdy's on the bench because we're going to throw out there the David Backuses, the Alexander Steens, the guys that can generate offense, but more importantly, know how to play the clock and get to the point where you need to. I thought that told you everything that you needed to know. Jordan Kyrou's not a late-game player that you put on the ice right now. They are still in search of that. Do you want him on the ice because he's got the ability to score the goal? Sure, but he's also got the opportunity to turn the puck over and to go in your back of the net. I just looked at that as it's a growing period for Jordan Kyrou, but I don't know if you're really in the growing period for Jordan Kyrou anymore. I think you're more in the line of he's not going to be on the ice in this circumstance. We're going to have other guys here, and right now you just can't have him out there.
I think both of you are right, and I think both of you are right for different reasons. I think it all depends on how the Blues view this season. Like, last night was a symptom, not the cause. What I think is going on right now is that the Blues are sending mixed messages. The Blues are Cardinals-ing this. The Blues told us all offseason, and they were really good at it, and I gave them a lot of credit for it, and I think they deserved it. They set expectations properly for Blues fans. They said, hey, listen, we're in the midst of a retool. Stick with us through this. We think there's going to be some really good benefits of this on the other side, but it's going to be a tough couple of years, and we need you to come through this. We're going to get opportunities for young guys. You're going to be able to see what it looks like for Jordan Kyrou to get more ice time. We're going to see what Jake Neighbors really is coming off of a good season last year. Can you back it up with a great one? We're going to find out, hey, what do we have in Holloway? What do we have in Broberg? All of these different things. And we all bought into that. We're all cool with it. We're like, okay, let's see what the young guys can do for this team. Unfortunately, that's not what they're actually doing. Every action that the team has had so far this year, whether it be Jake Neighbors' ice time early in the season, or Zach Bolduc and the handling of him, or right now, they're in a situation where they need another defenseman. Leo Loof was recalled a couple of days ago to be a part of the roster on this road trip. Leo Loof is a very young player. He was a part of the 2020 draft. He's probably not ready for the NHL. Probably not. But this is exactly the scenario if you're a retooling team where you would want him to get ice time. Instead, today they've made a decision to send him back down to the AHL because they need a defenseman to actually play for them right now. P.O. Joseph going to be out for a little bit, we would imagine. And they have decided to call up Corey Schooneman.
Way to go, man. You nailed it.
He's a 29-year-old defenseman, a career journeyman who has played 31 games in the NHL, mostly for Montreal, 26, 27 years old. Last time he was in the league was back in 2023. They decided to go with that guy as a placeholder instead of Leo Loof. All of this, including last night, the decision with Jordan Kyrou, goes back to the point of they're trying to win. They're trying to push. They want to be a playoff team at the expense of getting these opportunities for young players. So, was last night the right call? Well, under the situation that they're in right now, if they believe that they want to be a playoff team this year, if that is the stated goal, yeah, 100% the correct call last night. But I don't think that's the right way to handle this season. You're dealing with a ton of injuries. You're in the midst of a retool. You said all of the right things in the offseason. That's exactly the spot last night where you should have Jordan Kyrou on the ice if that is the direction that you're headed in. They are clearly heading in a different direction. All of their actions tell you that. I do not care about the words. Show me the actions of an organization. I disagree with that direction, but it's very clear to me based on their actions the direction that they are headed.
At some point, we got to stop with the young player that is Jordan Kyrou. Like, to me, that wasn't a young player that deserved the chance to be out there. To me, that wasn't an accountability factor to where you don't deserve to be out there right now. Like, you're 350 games into the NHL right now. You're 25 years old. Sure, on age-wise, you're young, but you've been through plenty of these scenarios yet for St. Louis. That's where I can understand the frustrating part from the fans, though, BK. It doesn't look good for Drew Bannister because now that's 2 consecutive games where the mindset is we got to get to overtime and pick up points. And again, I know I just argued the other side of the fence. But
both sides have fair points.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it from the fans' perspective. I can understand the frustration. You can view it as a bad or a good decision by Drew Bannister, but however you want to look at it, for the last 5 or 6 games, you've been focusing on, well, we just got to get to overtime and then anything can happen. And at some point, if you're the coach of a team that is trying to develop, and let's not overlook, I mean, Jake Neighbors was on the ice last night in that last moment. The previous shift before Sundqvist took the penalty, Dylan Holloway was on the ice in that moment. Those are younger players that everyone is viewing in the development stage. But at some point, you got to take a different stance because I think a lot of people are going to be viewing Drew Bannister and the Blues as, well, you're not developing and you're not winning, so what are you doing?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. I think that's a totally reasonable question to ask right now. Like, what is the plan currently? Why is this direction the way that you're going?
It's a tough spot to put a new coach into in the NHL who's trying to make a name for himself.
He knew what he was signing up for.
He did. He absolutely did. But, I mean, I'm noticing where Drew Bannister's at. I mean, because that is not an easy spot to be in. But I had no problem with his decision in the moment because the same thing took place with Brandon Saad. Now, I know we don't view Brandon Saad in the same light as Jordan Kyrou as a goal scorer, but in Boston, Brandon Saad just scored 2 goals for you against Buffalo. He sat Brandon Saad he played 2.5 minutes in the third period. It was a little bit of accountability factor for Jordan Kyrou in that game.
Just happened in the last game. Yep. I would argue, hey, look what Brandon Saad did. He was demoted to the 4th line, and then he responded last night after getting that demotion with 2 goals for you. Hey, last game, you did not play Jordan Kyrou in the final 4 minutes in a tight one. Now this is the game where you do it. Okay, hey, Kyrou, this is your punishment. You're not playing in the final 4 minutes. If you're going to keep making these dumb passes in the final 4 minutes of a game that's tied, we can't have that. Now is the time, the next game, where you get that opportunity. Hey, Kyrou. Last time we didn't put you out there. You know exactly why. Yep. We've talked about this. Now let's go see you do it. Now let's go implement that on the ice. That, in my opinion, should have been the way that it was handled last night. They decided to go a different direction, and It's a legitimate storyline and something that is going to be monitored over the next few games to see, is this just now the way that they're going to handle this moving forward? I think that would be a mistake.
And while building upon an already pretty positive game for Kyrou, right?
I think in general a pretty positive season for Jordan Kyrou.
I'm 100% with you there. But, like, if that was a game, like, let's say he had a turnover that led to a goal or just, there's, like, the game where they got killed 8-1 this past weekend. Kyrou didn't play well. No, nobody played well in that game, but Kyrou didn't play well. It was obvious when you watched the game. If that was the case in this game last night, I can understand the 4.5 minutes to your point of, hey, we're still trying to figure out, okay, in the final 4 minutes, we're still trying to just teach with Kyrou, hey, we're not making those passes in the final 4 minutes. We're not making those passes in the final 4 minutes. Man, he just hit the post on the previous shift. Probably could have won you the hockey game right there, if we're being honest. And you're one of your best players on the ice all last night. And you're still not just going to give him the opportunity for the final 4.5 minutes to potentially go out and win the hockey game for you. Again, for me, and this is why I've never thought that, even when they had Thomas and Broberg, they were a 500 team, right? They were a 500 points percentage team. That's probably what they are with Thomas and Broberg. That's their ceiling.
He's Tanner. That's Alex. I'm BK. Grant France is back in the studio for us today. We are broadcasting live at the E&B Granite Studios out at the Centene Community Ice Center. If you guys would like to get involved in the show, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to do so. YouTube is up and ready for you guys. YouTube.com/101ESPN. The studio cams are powered by the Air Alliance team. We'll get to ask us anything at the end of this hour. If you guys would like to get any questions, sport or otherwise, we'll answer them coming up at 11:45. But next, Alex, I'm typically the guy that says, hey, running backs don't matter. Don't pay them. Let them go whenever they're done with their rookie deal. There are a few exceptions. One of them was on full display last night. We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
on the ground, and a first down, and a ton more. Barkley, touchdown. Down by 9 now in the battle for first place. Barkley, does he have another one? Yes, he does. Touchdown.
So what it sounded like last night on Amazon Prime as the Philadelphia Eagles take care of business. 26-18 at home against the Washington Commanders. Alex, it was really the Saquon Barkley show. Jalen Hurts was fine. Got a decent game out of A.J. Brown. Defense played well. But it was all about Saquon last night. After the game, he was doing his post-game thing with the Amazon Prime post-game show, and you could hear the Eagles fans saying, "Thank you, Giants."
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Giants. The G-Man. And for good reason. Saquon's one of the best players in the NFL right now. And I think you can make a pretty strong argument he should be the leader in the clubhouse for the Offensive Player of the Year. Not MVP, but Offensive Player of the Year with what he has been able to add to this Eagles offense. Alex, I am ready, and I've been here for a little while, but I think we've just seen more examples of it this season, to say that running backs do matter. Yeah. I'm going to zig while everybody else zags. People have been telling you for years, running backs don't matter. They're totally over it. No.
What do you mean people have been telling you? One person's been telling me that, and it's you.
Alex, let me read you the current rushing leaders in the NFL, all right?
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry both have just over 1,100 yards this season. Third in the NFL, and that's just on the ground. Third in the NFL is Chuba Hubbard at 800.
That's just because they have nothing else.
Fourth in the NFL is Josh Jacobs at 750, along with Bijan Robinson. Those guys, Saquon and Derrick Henry, have about 350 more rushing yards than any other running backs in the league so far this year. There are three guys that truly matter at the position and should be paid and change your offense when they're out there. It's Saquon, it's Derrick Henry, and it's Christian McCaffrey. If you have one of those three players available, if they become available via trade or free agency, they matter. You should pay them. And the crazy part is, it's not like they're that expensive. You're paying them like a number 3 wide receiver. Like Darnell Mooney gets paid what Saquon Barkley gets paid. Which one's more important for their respective teams? And this is no shot against Darnell Mooney. He's had a really good season this year for the Atlanta Falcons.
But so you said who he played for? I had no idea.
I thought he was still with the Bears.
If you tell me I could have one of those two guys, I'm taking Saquon every day of the week. Alex, running backs matter. It's just a very select few of them that actually do matter.
Okay, I like how you've amended your take. That's good with this one. I'm with you. Like, when you list off those three, every single one of them, in my opinion, have been the MVP of their team. Now, I know Lamar can be considered the MVP, but, man, Derrick Henry has changed the way that offense has looked this season because you have that threat there for you. The San Francisco 49ers have been trash because Christian McCaffrey has been unavailable for them, and then you're seeing Saquon Barkley. I think another running back that we're going to be putting into this conversation fairly soon is Jahmyr Gibbs, just because of how much of a utility weapon he is for the Detroit Lions. But I think you look no further than what the Baltimore Ravens were last year to know that, hey, some running backs really matter, because you look at an offense that's just one-dimensional, to where it's like all they got is to heave the ball down the field, or in Baltimore's case, scramble and hope something happens. When you have nobody to check down to and nobody to make the defense question what your move is going to be, you're one-dimensional, and you're not as dangerous. But because these teams, and Philadelphia is a great example of it, because these teams have added that extra threat of, man, I don't know what they're going to do, because Jalen Hurts can run, Jalen Hurts can find A.J. Brown downfield, but now you got to worry about Saquon Barkley averaging 113 yards on the ground per game. They matter when you get a big-time weapon that can do a lot. They don't matter when you get one guy that's just the ground and pound and he's not able to pick up that threat for you on the field.
I'm sorry, I overstated just how expensive those guys were. These are the comparisons. Like Darnell Mooney is roughly in play with Saquon. Darnell Mooney's making $13 million a year. Saquon Barkley making $12. Here's some other guys in that range. Gabe Davis, Jacoby Myers, Mike Williams. Now, you want to hear the comparables for Derrick Henry, who's making $8 million per year?
Would love to.
For the Baltimore Ravens, here are the receivers that are making in that range.
$8 million.
Alan Lazard, Adam Thielen, Curtis Samuel, Robert Woods, Kendrick Bourne, Darius Slayton.
What a Darius Slayton.
How can you afford those guys?
Like, we have gone way too far in the direction of running backs don't matter. And there was this crazy backlash last week when the Carolina Panthers had the unmitigated gall, to give $8 million a year to Chuba Hubbard. People were like, oh, you're in a rebuild. How could you possibly pay your running back? They're paying him the same as they paid to a wide receiver in Adam Thielen.
Ridiculous.
Who does nothing. It's 3% of the cap, man. Chuba Hubbard, I just mentioned it, is third in the NFL in rushing, averaging more than 5 yards per carry for a god-awful football team. So yeah, pay him $8 million. Reward him for good service. At some point, yes, it is okay to pay these guys a little bit of money. Not a ton. Don't go crazy. Don't do what the Cowboys did where they give Ezekiel Elliott like wide receiver 1 money. But go out there and pay a little bit of money for a guy that changes the complexion of your offense. The Eagles did it in the offseason. I underestimated the impact that Saquon would be able to have for them. I underestimated the impact that Derrick Henry would have for the Baltimore Ravens. Not anymore. If we see another similar type of running back that changes teams in the future, I will react accordingly because these guys have completely altered the way that teams have to prepare for those respective offenses.
Yeah, I think there's like 3 to 4 running backs in the league that will always probably carry the mindset of, hey, you've got to pay that guy.
Totally.
And I think the rest of them end up falling kind of into the like Joe Mixon territory where, yeah, you like to have him, but you're not afraid to just kind of recycle through and go through the running back carousel. Because at some point, I do think part of where the nerds led us down this path is right. The more these guys age, the less explosive they are, and they become not worth their contract. But some of these guys,
Swift, Chase Brown, these guys in the middle of the pack, they're all the same.
He's right.
Like, if Tyler Algier took the job in Kansas City, would he be any different than any of the guys that are currently in Kansas City? Probably not. He'd be fine. He'd do a good job there. Meanwhile, he's the backup in Atlanta, right? Like that's the area where it becomes, oh yeah, they're all super replaceable. Najee Harris, I feel the same way about.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think that what you're seeing is teams not even look at it. I think it's like goalies in the NHL right now. You know, a lot of goalies don't get – you see a lot of the contending teams like the Oilers. What do we always talk about with the Oilers? They don't have goaltending. What do we always talk about with the Colorado Avalanche? They don't have goaltending because teams don't value that spot, right? When we've had the conversations like last year, oh, well, the Blues trade Binnington at the deadline. The answer is no because nobody makes that trade, right? So what we're seeing is in the NHL, I think to an extent most goalies kind of fall in line in the middle. There are a couple that are really bad, but a lot fall into the middle. And then you've got like 3 or 4 guys that are like, hey, you should pay that guy, like Vasilevsky in Tampa Bay. He's one of the very few goalies going right now that you look at, you're just like, you could never let that guy walk because he's so good. And Connor Hellebuck, another example of that. And that's how it is in the NFL, right? Like if you're looking at San Francisco, we saw what their offense looked like without Christian McCaffrey. You don't let that guy walk.
You can move between the 20s, but once you get into the red zone without Christian McCaffrey, your offense is completely different. For the Eagles, they don't have the same explosiveness offensively without Saquon Barkley on the field. It just totally changes things. All right, last thing to get to from last night's game. Commanders are now 7-4. They're 2 games back, effectively 3 games back because of the divisional loss last night from the Eagles in their own division. I feel like it's the same question for both teams, but in different directions. What do you make of these 2 teams? Because the NFC feels pretty wide open after the Detroit Lions. Do you trust the Eagles? Do you trust the Commanders? Like, what am I supposed to do with these teams, Alex?
I don't trust anybody in the NFC not named the Bills.
You mean the Lions?
I was looking at the Bills. I mean the Lions.
Totally fair.
I'm glad you knew where I was coming from there. Like, I think I could put the 49ers in there as I see them continue to get healthy, but I don't trust them right now. There's no way I can trust the Eagles. And I understand Saquon's looking unbelievable. You've got an offense that's reeling, but I've mentioned it before. I trust the Eagles the same way I trust the Cowboys every postseason. Their coach is going to screw it up somehow. And the Commanders, you're just too fresh. You're just too new. I still think they could have a little bit of Houston Texans in them where they just continue to show where people are saying, like, how the hell did this happen? Where did this come from? There's one team that I look at in the NFC, though, that I'm like, yep, doesn't matter who everyone else is. They're getting to the Super Bowl, and it's the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust either team, but I do feel better about the Eagles going into the playoffs than the Washington Commanders. And I think it's twofold. One, Jalen Hurts has been there before. He's played in the playoffs, even though I forgot they even got to the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
I don't remember him playing in the playoffs.
But I also think they're more balanced, right? You've got Jalen Hurts. When they've got their weapons, he looks good at quarterback. Now, he's not throwing for a ton of yards per game, but he's also utilizing his legs as well. Meanwhile, you look at the Commanders, their top 2 running backs, and Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, are like 300 yards rushing fewer than what Saquon Barkley's done this season.
And beyond that, their defense is good.
Exactly.
The Eagles have a good defense right now.
And the other thing, like, I get what you're saying about, and I think it's totally possible Nick Sirianni pulls a Sirianni and screws up their playoff run. I mean, we saw it last year. They collapsed down the stretch. But even though I don't trust Nick Sirianni, I've seen Jalen Hurts play well in the playoffs before. I've seen them overcome the Sirianni problem, unlike the Cowboys, who have not overcome the McCarthy problem. Now, in McCarthy's defense, his quarterback hasn't played well either for him.
Yeah.
But that's why I just feel better about the Eagles over the Commanders is I think they've been there before, and I think that does matter.
I do trust the Eagles more. I also think that, like last night, the Commanders just feel like they're getting a little out over their skis. That fourth down decision that they decided to make where the two offensive guards clearly didn't know the play, and they run into each other, and then Jaden Daniels has to take the ball, bail from the play, try to roll out on the other side, and he gets stopped like 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, much less trying to get to the first down marker. That's just one of those decisions. They were down by 2 at the time. I like being aggressive. You take the field goal there. That's a spot where I would just take the points. You go up by 1, and there's like 8 minutes left in the game. See where the game takes you from there. It just feels like they got a little bit too aggressive too quickly in that one, and that's the kind of thing. Like they're a young team trying to make their way. I think they've already well outperformed their expectations on the season. They're a good team. I don't think they're as good as the Eagles, and I think last night showed that. It proved it. I think right now, if I was trying to do a tier rankings in the NFC, I would go Detroit 1. I still have Green Bay 2, Philly 3 probably. That would be the way that I would stack it up. And then after that, whoever wins the NFC West. I think it's still going to be the 49ers for me. But if Arizona ends up winning that division, I'll have to trust them by the end of the season. That's probably how I would stack it up as of today. All right, he's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson, and I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up next, got some interesting news, an interesting report from Gabe DeArmond on TMA earlier today. How much would your opinion of this Missouri versus South Carolina game change if Brady Cook is able to make the start? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Grant Francis here with a SportsCenter update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. It was a back-and-forth game last night between the Blues and the Sabres. St. Louis had a 3-2 lead going into the third period, where with about 7 minutes to go, Alex Tuck tied it for Buffalo. And when the Blues took a penalty towards the end of regulation, the ensuing power play in overtime would strike for the Sabres as Rasmus Dahlin scored the game-winning goal on the power play as the Sabres took down the Blues 4-3. The Blues got a point in that one. They'll hope to pick up 2 tomorrow night as they're in Boston to take on the Bruins, a revenge game this week as they lost earlier in the week to Boston. It'll be an 11 o'clock pregame and a noon puck drop here on your home for the Blues, 101 ESPN. They've got a back-to-back this week. Sunday, they'll take on the Hurricanes in Carolina. That pregame at 3 o'clock, puck drop at 4 here on 101 ESPN. And then after the Blues game in Boston tomorrow, you can hear Georgia and Tennessee, some college football here on 101 ESPN pregame starting at 6 o'clock. I'm Grant Francis. The SportsCenter update's been driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
So, Alex, all week I've been operating under the assumption that Missouri's going to be taking on South Carolina tomorrow with Drew Pine as their starter.
Their best quarterback.
And I think that the market has felt that way as well. This would probably be like, what, a 4.5, 5-point line in favor of South Carolina if Brady Cook was the starter?
That sounds about right.
Drew Pine's
South Carolina's better than Missouri. I think everybody would agree with that, but not by this wide of a margin. Not by 2 touchdowns, which is currently the spread. It's South Carolina minus 13.5 in most spots. Well, earlier today, I was listening to TMA. They had Gabe DeArmond of PowerMizzou.com on their show, and he said something that was pretty surprising to me. Take a listen.
Last week, there was almost no chance he was playing. The hope always, I think, was, I was even hearing last week, like, hey, South Carolina's not out of the question. And just kind of things I'm hearing, I think if he can give it a go, he's going to give it a go. Will he finish the game? I don't know. But and I want to be clear, like, I don't know. I'm not saying Brady Cook is the starter. Based on what I hear, that's where I'm leaning.
That is more optimism than I have heard on this at any point over the last couple of weeks. I've always been under the impression, hey, the last 2 regular season games, that's probably what he's targeting. I wonder if the win last week changed things for them. I wonder if they thought internally, hey, we're probably going to lose to Oklahoma. Like, let's be honest here. Everybody saw what Drew Pine did against Alabama.
Didn't you hear what Drinkwitz said? People need to stop talking crap about their quarterback.
Yeah, I heard what he said publicly.
He's kind of like the Blues. He says one thing but means something else.
Stop doubting these quarterbacks. We've got some good ones around these parts.
I wonder if they looked at it and said, you know what? If we find a way to beat South Carolina, we're technically still alive for everything that we wanted to be in play for at the beginning of the season. It's unlikely, low percentage chance, but how do we make that possible? And the best chance for them to do that is with Brady Cook at the quarterback position. So, Alex, how much, in your opinion, would this change things for you and how you view this game? Because I'll just be totally honest. I gave serious consideration last night to having South Carolina as one of my picks for a pick'em coming up in the 12 o'clock hour. I am not doing that. Not if Brady Cook has a chance to be able to play on Saturday. I think 13.5 points is crazy if Cook is behind the center.
Oh, it changes the expectations completely the opposite direction. I view Mizzou as the team that could realistically beat South Carolina this weekend with Brady Cook. Now, you got, like, Brady Cook's not going to be 100%, but I will take a 75% Brady Cook over 100% Drew Pine any day of the week.
Totally.
The hard part with me with this team is, like, the offense has never clicked, even with Brady Cook. So I look at it and I say, like, how much different can it be? But I never count out a momentum when you get a guy back who's grinding through a game when he's not 100%. A team goes out there and plays a little harder for that player. Does he make it through the entire game if he's dinged up and one bad hit comes his way? I don't know. But if I'm looking at it on paper, I'm not as confident that Mizzou loses this game easily with Brady Cook under center.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd pick them to win if Brady Cook plays, but it certainly is a lot more of a game now if he's able to play, because it's so much harder to game plan against Mizzou if Brady Cook can play, right? Brady Cook can use his legs a little bit. Now, though he isn't healthy, he's not 100%, he definitely slings the ball still better than Drew Pine. I've seen Drew Pine throw the football. He has a tough time hitting the broadside of a barn. And now you don't have to just rely on the running game, though you still will want to use that to take some of the pressure off of Brady Cook. Now, if you're South Carolina, you almost don't know who you're going to game plan for, right? If South Carolina's been planning all week of, oh, yeah, it probably is Drew Pine. Suddenly things have gotten a lot harder here in the last 24 hours leading into this game of, okay, well, how will we stop Brady Cook if that happens? We've seen on multiple occasions this season, just by watching Mizzou alone, of how things have changed when they go up against a quarterback that they weren't expecting. Hello, Texas A&M.
And then we saw it happen, I believe, to LSU against Texas A&M as well, where they started Weigman in that game and then eventually went to Reese later on.
And you can just see it's different, right? It's different in game plan. It's not the exact same thing for Missouri, because A&M, it's like two huge swings between those quarterbacks. One can actually throw the football, be more of a pocket passer, while the other one is more of a true runner that can use his legs. But it's almost in that way of, hey, if Drew Pine's playing, they're more of the running game. It is going to be Nate Newell's going to have to carry us through this football game, and Nate Newell's not even 100%. But if Brady Cook plays, it's more of a balanced attack, makes things much harder. I still think, I agree, South Carolina probably would be about a 4 or 5 point favorite in that one. But to your point, BK, now if Brady Cook's able to play, you, A, I feel like have a shot in this game, and B, you can still have your season be a success by getting to the college football playoff, and there's still the possibility you could be in the SEC championship game. You still have to do your thing and get a lot of help from across the SEC and across the country, but now you feel better about that, of taking care of your own business first.
Can I give you a tinfoil real quick?
Sure.
He's never been hurt?
No. No, that's why not start Drew Pine? And then, like, third quarter, Brady Cook just comes running out from the locker room.
She could be down 21 or 28.
Exactly.
Seen him come back from it before.
South Carolina, I don't know how many people have been paying attention to them this season, because it's South Carolina. And once he lost that game against LSU, I think it kind of threw everybody off the scent. And then 2 weeks later, they lose against Ole Miss 27-3. So people are like, oh, okay, South Carolina's done. This is a good team. Like, not in the way that Auburn was, and I was telling you guys, like, hey, better offense than you think. Their results are kind of funky. Auburn's still the same team that they were. Between the 20s, they're really, really good. And then suddenly the wires start to cross and they just freak out. South Carolina has one of the best defenses in the country. They beat Texas A&M for a reason. There was nothing fluky about it. They shut down Vanderbilt last week, 28-7 in that game. You guys have seen what Vanderbilt can do. That offense is legit. And Diego Pavia is a guy that is not easy to shut down for that long. They completely shut him down. One of the best defensive lines in the country. They've got a safety that is expected to be picked in the top 50. They've got a bunch of young dudes that are scattered across this defense. They are incredibly talented. And then on the offensive side of the ball, stud quarterback, stud running back, couple of good receivers. Like, they are a really good team. Getting back Brady Cook at least gives you a chance. I didn't think they had any chance to win this game before. Today, I feel like they've got like a 30% chance to do so. And that's a hell of a place to be compared to where you were 24 hours ago. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Coming up next, ask us anything, sports or otherwise, here on BK and Ferrario.
We've got questions. We may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's Questions and Answers on 101 ESPN.
(314-399-9646) is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, now is the time to get them in. It's time for Ask Us Anything here on BK and Ferrario.
Thought it would be cool if I whispered it.
From the 636, guys, is BK's opinion of the Chiefs change if they move to Kansas? Nope, not at all.
Yeah, he's going to start rooting for somebody else.
He's still a honk.
He's a bandwagoner. You know, as long as they're still winning is what's most important.
BK just picks guys that BK just picks teams that are good. Can we bring on air what's taking place right now?
What's going on?
During a commercial break, so there must be some Pee-wee hockey being played right now. During a commercial break, one of the kids was standing out here being like, oh, hi, are you an NHL player? And BK says, yeah, I am. Now we've had like 17 different kids run by this window to wave at us because they think we're NHL players. I don't know what to do.
I just made their day.
We need to know you did. You ruined their life. They're going to go get their parents, and their parents are going to be like, Mom, Dad, there's an NHL player over here. And their dad's going to walk over and be like, those idiots aren't NHL players.
Does he look like an NHLer?
Those are radio guys.
I mean, to be fair, we've seen NHL guys with other pads on, and yeah, they pretty much look like us.
I mean, I know all three of us look like Scott Perunovich, but that's about it.
No, you look like Scott Perunovich.
I don't
You're
feel
short.
like
We're
my
tall.
size is all that much different than Pavel Buchnevich.
I beg to
differ. Oh, I beg to differ.
No,
Booch is like 210
Yeah.
pounds, man. He's thick.
No, he's a $195.
No, you're not even a buck.
Now that may be 20 pounds more than what I weigh.
I was
but...
going to say, you got to be like 170.
Yeah, no way.
All right, so I was
No way. Green juice over here, I'd say no more than 165.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm trying to.
Meanwhile, I think you're an NHL player. Meanwhile, this guy's hacking a lung over here in the.
Perunovich is the closest cop for you, my friend.
I'm like Jordan Bennington size.
No.
That one I actually agree with.
No.
Binner is
maybe Hofer.
Binner is slim, but the
Hofer's
thing
bigger.
Hofer is bigger.
Really?
Yeah.
Binner's
a rail,
Binner's
dude.
thin, but like the muscle strength is just wild.
That's right. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything from the 636. Guys, what do you think are the best snack for a road trip? If either of you say combos, I'm leaving the room.
Oh, I hate combos.
Oh, I hate combos, too.
My wife likes them, and she tries to get them on our road trip, and I said,
disgusting.
Carrot, you have to eat those outside of the car. I can't.
You know what? I don't really do snacks on road trips because I'm mostly driving, so it's like, you obviously have like peanuts or pretzels or something like that, but I don't really do snacks while I'm driving.
I'm a trail mix guy.
I
Not
hate
a trail mix guy.
Yeah.
Really?
I think I'm like an almonds guy, like those flavored almonds. Or it's just like potato chips.
I'm trying to think what I typically don't eat. I'm kind of with you. I don't typically eat a lot when I go on a road trip. If I do get something, like if it is a long road trip and it's like a snack to get me between like lunch and dinner, I'll go with like beef jerky. But other than that, I don't typically eat anything on the road.
I've never been a jerky guy.
Oh, really?
I've never been a beef jerky guy.
I've really gotten into beef jerky.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything, sports or otherwise. From the 314, guys, are you going to watch the Tyson fight tonight? And if so, who would you like to see win, or do you just not give a damn?
Oh, I'm watching it, and I want to see Tyson win. I'm not going to be upset either way because I do know it's staged. I just want to see Tyson fight. Ryder and I were talking about this because Ryder's like me, grew up watching Mike Tyson. Oh, my God, they're bringing more of them over here. Golly, man. You need to go out there and explain to them that we're not NHL players. Like, go out there.
I feel like I'm going to break a kid's heart.
You need to go out there, take
you did
a
this
knee.
to yourself,
You
my
need
man.
to go out there,
I
take
didn't
a
know
knee.
what he was asking, and I just gave him a thumbs up.
I told you what he asked.
You responded. Are we NHL players? Yes. Go out there, take a knee, and have a conversation with them.
I just gave a thumbs up. That's all I did.
Come on.
It's just, I was good to see you guys, because we feel like we're like caged animals in the studio sometimes, because we have if you ever come through the Centene Community Ice Center, you'll see our studio off to the left-hand side after you walk in.
We're like apes in the zoo.
Yeah, we've got a huge glass window in front of us where the door is, and people can watch the show, hang out over here, and some people do, right? It's cool, totally fine. But when there's like 10-year-olds that are standing over there for 15 minutes, I feel like we should at least wave or something, right? Just say hi.
Not answer questions.
Did that. Well, I couldn't hear exactly what they were saying.
I told you what he said.
And so thumbs up. See you guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, well, these kids are going to keep running back, and we need to turn the camera around the other way so that people can see on YouTube what is taking place.
He's asking me to sign his jacket again, and I've made a horrible
You need to go out, take a knee, and explain to him, like Uncle BK, that I'm not an NHL
You know what
player.
would happen? BK would say, I'm gonna go take care of this. He'd walk out there and sign the jersey.
Yeah, 100%. And then he'd be like, I'm going to go
That
take
way
a
he's not crushing a kid's dream.
Now, guys, leave me alone. I got to wrap up my radio show, and then I got to go put the pads on so I can go take the ice.
And then when they go to look up, like, when he brings it back and his dad or mom looks at it and goes, Brandon Kiley, I don't know that hockey player. They'll search and not find anybody.
To be fair, you'll never know what my name is based on the signature. Like 90% of the signatures.
You suck
that are
at
in the
signatures?
NHL. Yeah, terrible. Yeah. All right.
I never figured that one out.
To answer the question directly.
I forgot what it was.
Since we kind of moved on. Are we going to watch the fight tonight?
Oh, no.
I'm
locked in.
I'm driving to KC tonight. We've got a wedding tomorrow. The chances are I'll probably be out just with a few friends down on the town. Odds are very slim that I'm going to be watching the fight. However, if I was home, I would watch.
Yeah, I'm going to my sister's tonight, and I'm going to be locked in with some Mick Ultra Cactus Lime seltzers.
Oh, that does not sound like a
It's
fight-watching
November.
drink.
Don't forget, man. It's
Get a
always,
Christmas beer or something.
It's always a good time.
Or an
for some
Oktoberfest.
Cactus
You
Lime
got to have some
seltzers.
whiskey. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Make yourself some kind of like a campfire.
Nah, man, I got a
old-fashioned.
Blues
Have
game
the
at 12
smoke in
o'clock
there.
tomorrow. I can't be doing that.
What? At 12 o'clock tomorrow?
I don't sip. I go hard.
They play that early tomorrow?
You can't just have a drink?
No, I don't sip. I go hard.
Okay. I've seen that, so I believe
Yes, you
that to be
have.
true.
That's why I do the seltzers, man.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we're getting to our football pick'em this week. I was going to have Missouri as one of the picks, picking against
Do
them.
it, coward.
Don't think I'm going to be doing that any longer now that Brady Cook is potentially going to be playing. But we will give you our official picks coming up in 15 minutes. Coming up next, there's an update on Ryan Helsley and the Cardinals' interest in trading him or lack thereof. We'll tell you about it next year on 101 ESPN. call this reading from Derek Gould's article in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Quote, Ryan Helsley is one of the Cardinals' most appealing trade options for contending teams. You got me? Can you hear me?
Are we on the air? Wicka, wicka, wicka. Grant
Francis, are we on the air?
There we go. Now we're back.
I call this reading from Derek Gould's article in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Quote, Ryan Helsley is one of the Cardinals' most appealing trade options for contending teams and could command a strong return. Though multiple sources aware of the Cardinals' planning told the Post-Dispatch that the club is inclined to keep Helsley at this point unless overwhelmed. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Alex, yesterday, Ryan Helsley was named the National League's Reliever of the Year. Now, recent history of this award is pretty damn impressive, and most of them had some longevity after winning the award. Going back to 2016 all the way up until 2023. The winners were Kenley Jansen, Josh Hader, ×3, Edwin Diaz, and then Devin Williams, who won the award in 2023. Ryan Helsley won it last year. When you win this award, typically it's not because T-Bone, we talk about all the time, right? Relievers are totally erratic, and you never know if they're going to be the same guy the next year. When you win this award, generally speaking, it means you're so damn dominant, you're going to be really good for quite a while. Maybe not for a 10-year stretch, but for a decent stretch of time. Ryan Helsley won it yesterday. Alex, if you're the Cardinals and you're going into this offseason and now you know, okay, our payroll is not going to have to go down as much as we thought it would. We might be a little better of a team than we expected to be. How would that change your plans, if at all, with Ryan Helsley? Do you think this is the right decision to not trade him unless you're overwhelmed?
Yeah, I do. I wouldn't just completely close the door and say nope, we're not trading him unless somebody blows us out of the water, because you don't know. Maybe somebody comes to the table with at least a competitive offer for Ryan Helsley. I would at least still be considering it, because it just worries me carrying him into the season. If an injury happens, you've lost possibly your best trade chip. Even if you don't get overwhelmed, it's still something that you could bring a return that benefits your team long term. But if you're not blown out of the water because there's 7 other guys that are available and all of those guys are demanding a bigger price, then I would look at holding on to him until the trade deadline. Now, here's where my caveat lies. I'm not holding on to him for the entire season. I'm trading him still.
Even if you're in a playoff spot?
Yeah, because he does not fit into my plans long term. Because, as T-Bone likes to talk about, you can find closers. You can find bullpen arms. And I'm not going to go into a season with him. He's great again. I pay him a lot of money. And then next thing you know, my team is still in the retool era. And we've got a closer that's making a lot of money that doesn't fit into the plans for our team.
I don't know what Helsley's free agent contract is going to look like. I have no idea. I don't know what the comparison is for him, honestly, because he's had some injury issues in his past. I don't think he's going to get the Diaz deal. Edwin Diaz ended up getting $20 million a year. I don't think he's going to command that much money. No. I don't think he's going to get the Josh Hader deal because he was so dominant for so long prior to becoming a 5-year, $95 million man. I think it's probably more in line with Kenley Jansen, Ryan Presley, Raisel Iglesias, that kind of range, which is $15 to $16 million a year, probably more term than Presley or Jansen because they're older. So maybe a 4-year, $14 to $15 million contract on a per-year basis. Given where you're at with your rotation, would you consider that, T-Bone? I mean, that's what you were paying to Kyle Gibson or Lance Lynn. It's not like that's some overwhelmingly crazy contracts to give to a player.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't pay Ryan Helsley.
Okay.
I'm anti-giving contract extensions to bullpen arms / closers. Because though that list that you pointed out of the guys that have won that award, I mean, Edwin Diaz is already kind of showing some warts now, right? Edwin Diaz hasn't been the same guy. Now, granted, he did deal with a weird injury, blowing out his knee at the World Baseball Classic. But we've seen these kind of guys before. And Helsley has injury questions, right? I mean, he had a knee injury 3 years ago. Came off a forearm strain in 2023. And I don't think I want to spend $16 million on a guy that you can't really pitch in back-to-back games. And that's
he did that more this year.
He did that more this year, but a guy that is just so limited in his role of, hey, he's got to be a closer. So I don't think that's a knock on him. I just don't like the idea of paying those guys. I am open-minded to having him start the season with the Cardinals, though there is the risk of him getting hurt and then you end up having him walk away for nothing potentially. But I would not trade him this offseason unless you are overwhelmed by something. If you are overwhelmed by something, then yeah, he needs to be traded because you are in a retool. But to your question, like when you ask him, like if you're still in the playoff hunt at the trade deadline, is he an automatic must go? No, he's not. Not for me. If you're in it,
owe him?
I would be open minded to that.
$20 million for 1 year.
Well, now I hear the number, it's probably a little high, but
I don't think he would accept
on what
it. I
he
think
is.
he would reject it, and then you potentially either get a contract or you either
I don't know
get
if he's
him for
getting
that.
$20 million on the open market.
I feel like we're sneaking
Not
away.
on a per year basis, but I think he gets more guaranteed. Like I think he could
That's
get a
fair.
4-year, $60 million deal.
I feel like we're stepping away from what like this whole game plan was. Like Ryan Helsley, you're keeping him here to
Dude, most
to
of us we're
compete.
winning now, baby.
Yeah, like what are we doing? There were 4 press conferences held in one day about how they're taking a step backwards and redeveloping their minor leagues.
Hey, man, we've got our TV situation figured out.
And now we're throwing
good.
$20 million at a closer because
Well,
he's better
not-
for our
not
team.
20.
Not us. Brandon is.
What are we doing?
I'm not telling you that I would definitely do this. I probably wouldn't. Like I'm asking you this mostly to play devil's advocate because it promotes.
You're making me
discussion.
mad.
But
Stop.
the reason why I find it to be all very interesting is because Ryan Helsley's an elite player. Like this guy is arguably the best closer in Major League Baseball right now. Over the last 3 seasons, he has appeared in 152 games. He has a 1.8 ERA. I don't want to just let go of that guy. And if the offers this offseason are not like getting a real return of a top 100 prospect or something like that, I'm probably not trading him. This is what I've said all along, right? The only way that I'm trading him is if I have to find a way to get rid of Nolan Arenado, and he's the only way that I can do it. Or if I get overwhelmed by a contract or a trade offer. I think the Cardinals are handling this the correct way right now. I've said all along, I would be interested in seeing him try out as a starter next year. I don't think the Cardinals are going to do that, but that would be something that I would be interested in. And then I would definitely give him the contract extension. But neither here nor there. We don't have to have that discussion again. I don't know what the correct answer is here. I don't think there's an easy one because he's also 29 years old. So he'll be 30 next year. His contract will begin at his age 31 season. There's not a long history of guys that are elite level closers that are just great for the next 5 years once they turn 31. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the right answer is here. I think you should probably hold on to him unless you're overwhelmed. So in that regard, like what plan A is, the first step of this process, I think that's correct. And Alex, you asked why did things change? I think things changed because their money situation changed.
But they're not going to be aggressive to try and go out there and better their team. They're just staying as is. You're playing the younger players.
But why is that so bad? I think we've gotten
Because
too
you're
far
going to
into
be
this.
stuck in the middle again.
Like the Blues?
Yeah.
I'm not sure they will.
Do you think this team can compete next season?
I have to ask a question first to answer that question. I'm being serious.
That's probably not a good sign.
No,
That's my answer.
I think it's actually the exact right sign. How do the young guys do? Because that's my answer. I don't know because it depends on what Gorman and Walker and Sajaci and Wynn and Burleson and Herrera, it depends on what those guys look like. It's entirely possible that next year those guys come in and they're better than anticipated and it clicks and you're like, oh, this could be an 87, 88 win team potentially making the playoffs. I know that sounds crazy right now. I get it. You're probably looking at me like I have 3 heads currently. But weird
did we
stuff
fix our
happens in
camera?
baseball, dude. It's not always the teams that you expect to be there at the end of the year that are remaining standing. Like 2 years ago, the Orioles were early. It all came together. I was like, whoa, how did this happen? And the reason that it happened is because the young players started playing better. Nobody thought Milwaukee last season was going to be good. They came into the year, it was like, oh, so you trade Corbin Burns, you don't have Brandon Woodruff, you just got rid of Hader the year prior too. This ain't going to work. And then Devin Williams gets hurt as well, and they're supposed to be good? No chance. They won 93 games. Why? Because their young guys got good. They made a couple of smart moves in the offseason. Then, boom, they're the winner of the division with a plus 136 run differential again.
And to your question, Alex, if Helsley's here, he's not blocking anybody, right? Like, you can learn if Fernandez is a closer next year. You can learn if Fernandez is a closer post All-Star break. You can learn if, I don't know, JoJo's a closer at post All-Star break or next season as well. Like, now that they've kind of unclogged the position player spot, now look, there still is a bit of a clog with Arenado at third base if that's the case. Pitching-wise, I don't necessarily see where there are issues aligning to where it is, oh, that guy must go. Outside of maybe one starter needs to be traded so they can move McGreevy into a role.
Totally.
But outside of that, I don't necessarily mind going into this season saying, hey, if we're stuck in the middle, that's fine because we don't know what the young guys are because they haven't had inept opportunities, right? Gorman has been a roller coaster right now, and maybe you still want to see more from him. I do still think his ceiling is a 40 home run guy. Jordan Walker's the guy that has been most affected by their, we have to win and we have to win right now. Look at 2023, look at 2024. Now, I think they made the right decision to send him down last year, but I could hear an argument for, hey, he should have been up. Look at what Jackson Churio did when he got to play every single day. Now that you're going to take away the pressure of it's win, 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 as long as they follow this and don't change course like the Blues have done, then I don't necessarily mind, quote-unquote, stuck in the middle. But this is the only year that can happen, right? This is the year where if the young guys play, you are stuck in the middle. Now serious conversations need to be had of where you're going to pivot and what you're going to do.
All right, this one comes from the 314. The Air Comfort Service text line is 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Wow. What a take, BK. If the young guys are good, then the Cardinals might be okay. Radio off. I'm done.
Yeah, well, if the Cardinals are leading and Ryan Helsley comes out of the bullpen, you're going to win.
It's true. The reason why I had to say that is because I think that is almost dismissed as a possibility by a lot of fans. I think a lot of fans look at the team and are like, they're going to stink. There's no way they can be good next year. You're getting rid of potentially Nolan Arenado. You're not bringing back Paul Goldschmidt. You don't have the stars. Like, there's no way this team can be good next year. And I think that's the overwhelming likelihood. Nobody's trying to sell you a bag of goods here. I think the Cardinals, the most likely outcome is they're like a 76 to 80 win team next year, somewhere in that range. And they're worse than they were a year ago, and you see some development, and we find out what they have in the young guys. And that could be reasonably considered a useful season, even if not a true successful season, right? I think there's also a range of outcomes in which the Cardinals win 90 games next year because the young guys are good and the pitching isn't taking this massive drop-off because, you're losing Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, who were league average starters a year ago? Can that not be replaced by Palante and McGreevy? I think it could be. So that's why I think it has to at least be acknowledged that there is a range of outcomes in which the Cardinals could be decent next year. That's what I'm trying to get at. And in that scenario, you know what is unbelievably demoralizing is having a lead going into the ninth inning and losing. That sucks the life out of a team. There's nothing worse than having no options in the ninth inning of a game. And the Cardinals could be in that scenario if they don't have Ryan Helsley next year. I think Fernandez has a chance to be good. It's every bit as likely that he's bad next year. I think there's a chance that JoJo could be a decent closer. It's every bit as likely next year that he's a disaster against right-handed hitters, and you can't have that guy as your closer. So would I bring him back next year? If I don't get a good offer, I would. Would I consider re-signing him? It depends on the price. But considering the fact that they have basically no money committed to 2026 or beyond, I think it's got to be on the table. It's something that I would consider because they don't have the same money issues that we thought that they might. So that's where I stand with Ryan Helsley right now. It's unpopular, and I will be curious to see if they actually follow through with this or if it's just a negotiating ploy. But I find their whole decision-making process with Helsley to be fascinating.
I thought the craziest thing I heard in all that was they could win 90 games next year.
Coming up next, it's time for our football pick'em with Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. We'll give you our picks of the week next year on 101 ESPN.
to more exclusive Blues talk. 101 ESPN is live from the Centene Community Ice Center. Brought to you by Bud Light and E&B Granite. Bernie Federko's only choice for granite countertops, cabinets, and flooring.
It is time for our football pick'em. If you're new to the show, we do this each and every Friday here on BK and Ferrario. I wouldn't say that we necessarily do it well. T-Bone does. The two of us do not.
No, I know.
Tanner has 10 points over the first couple of weeks. He's 5-1. He's on a bit of a heater. I would go ahead and follow his picks if I was you. Maybe don't follow me and Alex.
Oh, fade us,
We
please.
both have 5 points. Alex is 3-3. I'm 2-4. I keep hitting my 3-point plays. I'm struggling on everything else. T-Bone, people know the rules at this point. It's against the spread. Any game that is played prior to us getting on the air on Monday. Just the NFL, college football, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. No props, no point totals. Very simple against the spread picks. What is your 1-point play this week, my friend?
All right, guys, for my 1-point play, I'm going to start in the NFL. And look, I've warned about the West to East Coast noon start, right? That's like playing football at 10 a.m. But you know who's really good at having his team ready for such an occasion? My guy, Sean McVay. The Rams are on the road this week as they travel to the New England Patriots. They are 4.5-point favorites. I think the Rams are having a bounce-back game. It was embarrassing, their loss to Miami on Monday Night Football. They need a win. I think they're going to bounce back. Things are going to click a lot better for them. I think they beat the Patriots by 10-plus points. So give me the Rams minus 4.5 as my 1-point play.
Can't bounce back if you don't have any talent.
They're more talented than New England.
Well, that's very true, but I like Drake May. But the West-East thing,
Hey,
just stop it with that already.
What's that 3-3? Sorry, I've listened to 5-1 over here.
I hear a collapse coming sooner or later, and that's a good start with this one. All right, well, my 1-point play, I'm going to the NFL. And I'm anticipating BK's team is finally going to lose their game. You don't have Harrison Butker, bringing in another kicker. And as we saw, sometimes the field goals are pretty important for Kansas City. I think Buffalo, even without Dalton Kincaid, going to get Amari Cooper back. Kansas City's offense just has not been great, in my opinion. And I think Buffalo has been clicking on all cylinders. I think this is the week where Buffalo picks it up. And when we go later to our weekend look ahead, it's going to be one of those overreaction where Buffalo's the best team in the AFC. Whoa, pump the brakes. But I think a 2.5-point spread, I think Buffalo wins this one.
All right. Got the other side of that game.
Surprise, surprise.
I
My
wouldn't touch that
2-point
game.
play is the Kansas City Chiefs plus 2.5 on the road at Buffalo. I've got a few reasons why. One, you mentioned it. Dalton Kincaid being out is a huge deal. The Chiefs have really struggled against tight ends so far this season. One of the worst teams in the league against them. Now one of the best players, one of the best weapons for the Bills is going to be out. Two, the Bills play a ton of cover two. You know who's one of the best cover two teams in the NFL? Kansas City Chiefs. Why? Because they play that way against everybody. They're going to take what you give them underneath. Juju is back this week. You've got DeAndre Hopkins. Travis Kelce's amazing against cover two. Patrick Mahomes is taking what the defense gives him right now. And three, the running game. The Chiefs have finally built a running game that is really good, and the Bills are one of the 3 worst teams in the NFL against the run. So Chiefs plus 2.5 is my 2-point play this week.
Look, I don't like the fact that it's why it was my 1-point play, but the do factor I feel like is coming at some point, and this is the game that it's going to happen with.
Well, it's
BK dies over here. T-Bone, what's your 2-point play?
My 2-point play, because that one's interesting. I'm going back to the college football slate, and I just realized also that I have 3 favorites that are on the road, so that can't be good. But Arkansas, guys, they allow a lot of explosive plays. The Hogs are going to be wrapped up and tied down by the Texas Longhorns this week. I like Texas on the road at Arkansas. Minus 12. Arkansas gave up a ton of points to Ole Miss. They gave up a ton of points to LSU. They're going to give up a ton of points to the Texas Longhorns. So I love Texas minus 12 at Arkansas.
Now, this might catch you guys off guard here, but I'm going to the college for my 2-point play.
Boy, someone's desperate for points.
No, this is not desperate. This is just like this. This is a bad play by me, but I'm just trying to switch it up a little after these last couple. Sticking in the SEC, and I am taking a road favorite, T-Bone. I'm taking LSU -4 against Florida. I don't think Florida's been very good this season. They've had a lot of blowout games, especially against ranked opponents, and LSU still believing they're in the SEC championship conversation. I think regardless if this is home or away, a 4-point spread, LSU wins this one.
See, I thought about that one, but then they announced that their quarterback's coming back to start that game this week.
Is he?
Yeah, and that's what scared me away from it. So I decided to stay away from it.
Good.
All right, boys.
God, I hate this stupid game we play.
I'm on my 1-point play because I gave you my 2. It's the Chiefs +2.5 against the Bills. Have you watched Purdue this year?
Yeah, they stank.
They're one of the worst teams in college football. They lost to Notre Dame 66-7. They lost to Wisconsin 52-6. They lost to Oregon 35-0. They lost to Ohio State 45-0. When they play a good team, they get their ass handed to them. Penn State is currently a 28-point favorite against Purdue. And I think they cover that spread. I think Penn State does not allow a point in this game. I think they win this thing going away 37-0. Give me the Penn State Nittany Lions minus the 28 points on the road at Purdue.
I'm shocked you went with such a big spread, but I like it because Purdue is bad. And that's why Illinois almost losing them was very sad.
That's when Illinois really was out of it.
Guys, my 3-point play, I'm going to be in college football once again. And I found this stat today, and then I definitely locked this in as my 3-point play. We talked about the Oregon Ducks, right? The Ducks are the best team in the country. There is no questions asked. Wisconsin is hosting Oregon this weekend, and somehow Oregon is only a 13.5-point favorite. Guys, Wisconsin's played 4 teams that are ranked in the top 25. You know what the record is? They're 0-4. You know what they've lost those games on average by? 38-14. Wisconsin can only beat teams like Purdue that stink. So give me the Oregon Ducks minus 13.5 on the road at Wisconsin. I think they're going to blow them out of the water.
That was one of my potential picks, but the large spread scared the hell out of me. I tried to stay to tighter spreads, which is where my 3-point play is. And this is in the NFL. I'm not that desperate. The Falcons game last week was embarrassing. And I know Denver's been good. But a 2-point spread for Falcons as the underdog, I think they keep that one close. I think they win that one. They're going to have a good enough response in this game. And I'm just still not in line thinking that Denver is this team that is just going to continue to pile up wins. I think Bijan Robinson's been great. I think that offense has been rolling. So I'm going to take the Falcons as the underdog +2 against the Denver Broncos.
Love that pick. I think this is a true letdown spot for Denver.
Crap.
Denver had everything. They were devastated last week after that loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, dude. They thought they had it in the bag, and then they lose. Coming back from that is going to be really difficult, I believe.
Meanwhile, the Falcons losing that game in fashion to where it's like, that's embarrassing if you're a playoff team. Yep.
Wake-up call, dude. They needed the wake-up call. Meanwhile, the Denver Broncos had a game that was absolutely crushing to their hopes this season. So I actually really do like that pick plus the 2 points. All right, my 3-point play. It's risky. I understand this. But I have been shorting Georgia for quite some time now. And I think more often than not, it has paid off. I do not think so. I think Georgia is getting more respect than they should for 2 reasons. 1, they're named the Georgia Bulldogs. 2, that crazy win that they had at Texas. Otherwise, this year, they have not lived up to expectations, man. They beat Kentucky by 1 point. They had a close game against Mississippi State earlier this year. It was a close game against Florida a couple of weeks ago. They got their butts whipped against Ole Miss last week. I think they're going to lose again this week against Tennessee. Tennessee's a 9.5-point underdog in this game on the road at Georgia. I think they win it outright. Give me the money line in terms of I like the odds better on that. But plus 9.5 points, absolutely. Give me the Vols. Plus 9.5 at Georgia.
So I thought about that one heavily because I do like Tennessee in this game. I actually love the under in this football game the most, 47.5. But with the quarterback situation as a question mark for Tennessee with Nico Imaleva in concussion protocol, I don't know what to expect. I don't know if he's going to play or not. And who knows?
I'm not sure it matters.
Maybe their backup quarterback's better, but that's the whole reason I'm going to stay away from it. I don't know what to expect. And Georgia's defense, though it's not great, it's still pretty good. I was too afraid to take that one because of the uncertainty at quarterback.
Yeah, I'm not sure it matters because Nico has not been the guy that he was earlier this season. They're not a passing team. This is a defense and run game team. That's who Tennessee is this year. They basically have become Georgia. Georgia, the previous iterations of them prior to that weird, Stetson Bennett range was, hey, we're going to run the hell out of the football. We're going to play great defense. Good luck scoring on us. And we're going to suffocate you. That's what Tennessee has become this year. I think they're a really good version of it. I don't love them as a team, but in this game, I like them plus the 9.5 points. So those are our picks for this week. T-Bone, who's been on fire, has the Rams minus 4.5 on the road at the Patriots. He's got Texas minus 12 at Arkansas. He's got Oregon minus 13.5 at Wisconsin. 3 road favorites of significance in this one for T-Bone this week. Bold strategy. See if it pays off for him. Alex has the Bills minus 2.5. I'm on the other side of that game. I've got the Chiefs plus the 2.5 points. Alex has LSU minus 4, and he's got the Falcons plus 2 at Denver. I have Penn State as a huge favorite on the road at Purdue, and I also have Tennessee plus 9.5 at Georgia. Those are our picks. Feel free to fade them. Feel free to follow them. You can do it all over on the Circus Sports app in the state of Illinois. They've got the best odds possible for you. That's what we use exclusively as our provider for our picks each and every week. Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to dive into the junk drawer, but next, have we reached the point of no return with the injuries for the Blues defensively? Alex will answer that question next for you here on 101 ESPN.
Grant Francis here with a SportsCenter update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, Blues in Buffalo had a lead going into the third period, 3-2. But with about 7 minutes to go in the third, Buffalo was able to tie it. And when the Blues took a penalty late in regulation, the ensuing power play in overtime resulted in a Buffalo win. Rasmus Dahlin with the game-winning power play goal as the Blues get a point but fall 4-3 in Buffalo. They have back-to-back opportunities this weekend to redeem themselves. First up tomorrow in Boston. That pregame starting at 11, puck drop at noon. And then on Sunday in Carolina, pregame will be at 3 o'clock and puck drop at 4 here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN. And then following the Blues game tomorrow in Boston, you'll hear some college football here on 101 ESPN. Georgia and Tennessee, that pregame starting at 6 o'clock. I'm Grant Francis. The SportsCenter update's been brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alex, in the summer, the Blues had 10 defensemen on one-way contracts. 10 of them. That included Torrey Krug, Nick Leddy, Phil Broberg, P.O. Joseph, and Tyler Tucker. Every single one of them is currently hurt. Mm-hmm. That leaves 5. Parayko, Suter, Falk, Perunovic, and Kessel. That's all you've got right now. With Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. You've got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. The Blues did make a move earlier today to bring up a guy that's been a journeyman NHL defenseman. He's like 28 years old. He's played a couple of years in the NHL, but he's a true 7th defenseman in every sense of the word. Alex, have the Blues reached the point of no return with these defensive injuries? And how do you handle this over the next couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months, however long this ends up being, if this is the hand that they're going to be dealt?
Yeah, I mean, there's no fixing this right now or finding ways to navigate through. This is what you've got. Like, you are in the position where worst case scenario is you were going to be an injured team this season. And Broberg is, in my opinion, not going to be back until post-Winter Classic. Maybe something miraculous happens, but I think the last home game, he was still walking around on crutches. So that's not a good sign considering you haven't even started skating. Nick Leddy, we have not even seen, and Bannister said the other day that, like, yeah, it's a little bit of a setback, and until he starts skating, we don't really know. So I'm not anticipating him for at least the next 2 to 4 weeks unless something crazy happens. The P.O. Joseph one last night did not look pretty. Another lower body injury, barely could get off of the ice. That means you're in the situation now where you've got Parayko, Falk, Suter, and Matt Kessel. Those are the 4 guys that you're relying upon. Sure, Scott Perunovic, insert juryman name here. You're at the point now where if you're a Blues team, you're just going to have to suck it up and figure out how to navigate through this with injuries. And there's no fixing it, though. Like, you can throw guys around. The problem is you're relying on a almost 40-year-old who probably can do this, but the mileage is going to start affecting the player when you're playing 33 minutes a night. You're going to have to promote a Matt Kessel into a spot where you're playing 21, 22 minutes a night. Kind of what he did last year when Torrey Krug and Justin Falk went down. The issue there is that's 2 righties on 1 pair, and you're going to have to shift somebody to their opposite side, and that makes things a little effective.
Figure it out.
Or you're going to move a Perunovic up into your top 4,
Nope.
or a Schoenemann into your top 4.
Nope.
Those are the options for you right now. And the only reason I'm presenting them, you're saying no, but Drew Bannister likes lefty-righty, and you brought up a lefty just like Scott Perunovic is a lefty.
Somebody on the text line, just real quick to address this, somebody said, what about Tyler Tucker? He's hurt right now.
He's hurt.
He's not playing in the AHL, so that's why. He's day-to-day. We don't know how severe the injury is, but as of today, he's not an option because of the injury.
Yeah, so when he's back, he'll be the one that's brought up, but that's why you go Schoenemann over a Leo Loof, because Loof has played like 60 games in the American Hockey League. So you're just a injured team this season. And you know what happens to injured teams? You suffer through the lumps for the next few weeks. When you get guys back, you see where you're at. But I'm not to be Debbie Downer and negative Nancy in the spot, but this might be a blessing in disguise for a Blues team to where, yeah, you're in a retool, and, you know, it would be different if you were healthy and you were falling apart because everyone would be screaming for a rebuild. But at least when you're injured, you can look at it and you say, hey, there was nothing we could do with this. We tried to fill the gaps. You might be gifted a top 5 pick at the end of the season because of the injuries, and you pick right back up where you left off next year.
And I'm glad you brought up, hey, you're in a retool, because to me what these injuries do, we talked about this in the opening segment, right? The Blues feel like they're stuck in between. Their actions are saying that they want to win, even though they're trying to get to the playoffs, even though everything they said in the offseason was, hey, it's a retool. And with that being said, you know what it tells me with the defensemen having all these injuries? And it just doesn't tie in with the defensemen, because now you're like truly running out of bodies. But it ties into the forwards as well, because you've got all these injuries to these defensemen. Embrace the retool, man. Embrace the retool. Let Zach Bolduc play in the top 6 consistently, or top 9 for that matter. I don't really care. Just not fourth-line minutes. You know what? Leo Luft probably should have been on the ice for the St. Louis Blues. He may not be ready. You know what? He can get NHL experience here. Matt Kessel, congrats. You're into the top 4. I don't care. It's 2 righties. Kessel, somebody go to their offhand. We need to get him experience in the top 4 with them defensively. Embrace the retool. It's a year from hell in injuries, and maybe you did think you were going to be better than what they have been on the ice. You know what? You said it was a retool. Make it a retool, okay? Let's embrace the youth movement a little bit here and get these guys opportunities now.
The crazy thing is right now, and Alex, I'm curious your thoughts on this too. Right now, you are 3 points away from Montreal for the #1 overall selection, and 3 points away from Calgary for the final spot in the postseason.
Remember getting to overtime against Utah, Philadelphia, and Boston. 3 points, you're in that spot. Now, here's the thing, because somebody just texted in to what T-Bone was mentioning, that this is the perfect opportunity to bring guys up and let them play for a few games. I don't want to do that, because I don't need to be ruining the guys that I'm trying to develop and tell them to become saviors for this team. If you want to keep Leo Luft up here, fine. But from the conversations that I've had with a couple of people in Springfield, Leo Luft wasn't really ready for an NHL spot.
Well, here's my question then on Luft, because like if that texter's like saying, well, bring up the young kids like Dvorsky, that I'm not saying. I want him to really have that maturing process down at the AHL level. Anybody here think Luft's like a guy that has a long-term future with the Blues? Because if he is, okay, then I'm fine. I'm with that conversation. To me, he's a Luken Baker, like the Cardinals, right? He's a 7th defenseman constantly for the St. Louis Blues.
But he just came over last season from playing over in Europe, first North American hockey. Like, sometimes there's a development factor into it where it just doesn't make sense to put him in a spot, because he's going to be coming here and probably playing 16, 17 minutes a night. I don't think Luft is anything more than what Tyler Tucker was, a third-pair defenseman.
Then this is going to sound so harsh to say, I don't really care about his development at the AHL, right? It's time. Let's have him play up here. If we truly believe his role in the future is Tyler Tucker, that's a 7th defenseman. Those guys you can find anywhere on the market, right? You can develop those guys all the time internally.
Can't I say the same thing about Schoenemann and just be like, it doesn't matter. Put him up here, let him play, and then Leo Luft can play top 4 minutes.
I know for a fact that he doesn't have a future with the Blues.
And I think that's what the Blues are doing. They're putting guys up here that they realize it's not going to affect them this season, because it's just a lost year. And I'm talking more to Dvorsky, and you and I are on the same page, but I know there's a lot of people that are going to be like, well, bring up Dvorsky, bring up Dylan Peterson. None of that matters. You have nobody in your minors, with the exception of, in my opinion, Michael Buchinger, who could be an NHL defenseman for you. And you're not putting him in this spot. So there's no like, oh, well, you need to develop guys in this spot. The developing is already taking place in the NHL.
Maybe not to the level that it should, though.
No.
And that's where I will agree with T-Bone. I do think I don't know if it's today. For me, it would be. Clearly for them, it's not. But I think there comes a point in time where you just have to have an honest assessment of where you're at as an organization. And, guys, if we just look at where the Blues have been, especially since these injuries really started to hit with Robert Thomas and Philip Broberg, since that Montreal game, you've lost 7 of your last 9 games. The only 2 wins were against Toronto and Tampa. And
that's a hard brand of hockey to play for 16-plus games before you get everybody back.
Good luck. It's just not happening for this team with the way they're currently assembled. You don't have the goal scoring to outscore your problems defensively. You don't have the forwards that are good enough defensively to make up for your lack of defensemen right now. And the goaltending, while it's really good, man, we've seen what this looks like when they have a liability defensively in front of them. There's only so much you can do as a goalie. Eventually, the dam is going to break. And I think that's what we're watching right now. This is no fault of anybody's. Nobody has to be blamed. You got hit with a year from hell. Sometimes it happens. The Indianapolis Colts, when Peyton Manning went down, they had Jim Sorgi. Guess what? It happens. They got the #1 overall pick, and they were blessed with Andrew Luck being there, and then they ruined it because they never got him the protection that he needed. The San Antonio Spurs, they have the year from hell with injuries, and then the #1 overall pick that year happens to be Tim Duncan, and they go on a 25-year run. Like, I don't know what the number one pick this is going to be like this year. I don't know what the top 5 selections are going to be like this year, but it's entirely possible that the Blues actually have a silver lining here. And the silver lining is because we sucked in the right year and because these injuries hit us in this season while we were going through the midst of a retool anyways, we ended up with a top 5 pick and we got a guy that ended up really like kind of like Broberg and Holloway accelerating the retool. And so next year, you're adding Dvorsky and whoever that first-round pick is, and potentially Snuggerud, maybe another guy that is coming over from Sweden. Like, that's a lot of talent that would be potentially added to your lineup next year, and then, boom, now we're off and running. This year is just not that year. It's not going to be that year. And I think if the sooner that they admit as much, the sooner they acknowledge as much, the better it's going to be for the organization long-term. And I agree with T-Bone. It should have been Leo Loof that was playing tomorrow night. I don't know much about the young man, but if you were willing to call him up for spot duty, you at least thought he was capable of playing in the NHL. And I do find it a little strange that lasted all of one day.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think it was telling in the sense of they brought him up because they were like, well, we just need to get through this road trip, and then when we get home, we'll see where we're at health-wise. And then when they realized that we're bleeped, we might need to play somebody, and he's playing 20 minutes a night, they're like, we can't do that to this kid.
I think that's a mistake of having to think that he needs to play 20 minutes a night, though. Your third-pair defensemen have been playing regularly like 10 minutes a night.
Again, I hate to tell you guys this. I don't know if he's playing 13 minutes a night. They might be playing these guys 18, 19 minutes a night right now.
I mean, Matthew Kessel was playing 13 the other night.
I get it.
Brunovich was playing 13.
But you were trying to win that game. They're going to be in a spot now where they're going to go lefty-righty, and they're going to be rotating guys. I mean, regardless of what you feel like with Leo Loof, wasn't going to make a difference.
And I'm not upset with, like, the decision with Leo Loof. It's more the process, right? It's the process of not embracing the retool.
Yeah, it's Loof. It's not playing Kyrou last night at the end of the game. It's not playing Bolduc as often as you probably should. It's all of this stuff that combines to being like, what's the goal here? What's the goal? And the goal is for them making the playoffs, and I just feel like that is such a lofty goal. It feels like the 2022 Cardinals where it's like, hey, eventually you guys have to acknowledge this is not happening.
I don't know if the goal by them anymore is to make the playoffs, but I really wonder, and this is something you'd have to get truth serum to ask the front office. I really wonder if their goal right now is to just not getting this group of players into a losing mindset. And I know that sounds odd because, like, well, you're going to be bad with all of these injuries, but like, you look at the teams that are always drafting in the top 5. Buffalo is a perfect example. Like, it's hard to shake the mindset of we're just losers. And I believe that's what they're trying to avoid, because when you fall into the pit of, well, look, this is a lost season, we're going to be playing these younger players, the guys that at least want to be competitive get into that losing mindset, and that's a hard thing to shake in the NHL.
I just think there's no way to get around it.
Yeah, and sometimes I think as an organization, you just have to, put it bluntly, embrace the suck, you know? Like, I think that's kind of where they are, and that's the tough part about this season, right? Because when they had Thomas and Broberg, I could hear the argument. Again, I still think it probably would have been about a 500 team. But you know what? I can hear the argument of, hey, we think we can still make the playoffs with those guys. Man, now you're just wrecked with injuries. I mean, BK just ran through like 6 guys with one-way contracts with injuries. Best thing for you is just to say, you know what? Even if we were calling this a retool but felt we were more of a playoff team than what we are leading on, let's actually go to that retool. Let's actually make the right process decisions that will actually, I mean, Army always talks about when he makes decisions, right? It's not about the player. It's not about me. It's about what's best for the organization. There's got to be some serious soul searching going on up there in that front office press box that is saying, hey, maybe it is best for us to really embrace this retool and make sure that happens.
Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up next, it's time for the junk drawer here on BK and Ferrario.
Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
Brought to you by Fenton Bar and Grill. Best trashed wings in Missouri. Dine in, carry out, 7 days a week.
Let's dive into the Junk Drawer. T-Bone, what do you got for us today?
Did you guys watch baseball games with the Astros when they were at the Astrodome? Or was that before your guys' time?
Did I watch the Astro? No.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Astrodome was before my time, wasn't it?
I kind of thought it would be, but I was just curious if maybe that was the case. And the reason I asked that question is because the Astrodome Conservancy has unveiled a $1 billion proposal to revive the Houston venue, and they'll call it Vision, the Astrodome. 4 new buildings will be inside the dome. It will be 450,000 square feet of revenue-generating space surrounded by restaurants, retail, and office space. So essentially, we're going to bring back the Astrodome and turn it into a big circular mall.
They've been looking to figure out what to do with the Astrodome basically ever since they closed it from being used for any sporting events. Right now, I think it's only used for like the
rodeo.
I think the rodeo is the big thing that they do there.
The reason I say it is because the renderings that they have is it almost looks like, so there's like a mall that's a circle, a spear, whatever you want to call it. And then in the middle, there's a whole bunch of dirt with cowboys, it looks like. So it looks like they're trying to build a mall that has a rodeo in the middle of it.
This will not happen. They will not spend $1 billion to renovate this place. They don't know what to do because it costs like an ungodly amount of money to blow it up at this point. There's like a bunch of rodents that live inside of it. Like it's a real they've got serious issues with the Astrodome. Making it into a mall feels like the worst case scenario.
They're coming back.
Especially if you got rodent problems. I don't know if I want my mall with a bull riding thing in the middle of it to have freaking rat problems.
Like in theory,
imagine spending $1 billion in 2024 to create a mall.
Malls
with a
are
rodeo.
Dead. It's like Mall of America. Now, I've never been to Mall of America. I don't know how busy it is currently.
Kind of anticlimactic.
Malls are kind of dying, if not dead.
Kind of, definitely.
I don't know if I'd be putting $1 billion into that.
Yeah.
I'd probably just demolish it and put that $1 billion elsewhere.
I respect whoever it is that came up with this. They probably have like a vested interest in the Astrodome sticking around
Or
and
they
trying
love
to
malls.
make it into something that is a living, breathing legacy to the city, right? The Astrodome for Houston is a big deal. It's like a monument almost in the city. This ain't it. This ain't it. I don't know what you can do to save it, but this certainly is not going to be the thing.
When was the last time you were like, let's go to the mall?
It's similar to St. Louis with like the Americas Dome. I don't know what you do with that thing long term, dude.
The Battlehawks, dude.
They did just get new turf, which was desperately needed.
Yeah.
But like, are they just going to continue to pour money hand over fist into that thing over the years? I guess that's the plan.
You're pouring money into a convention center, which I don't know how much you're really bringing into the city when you do something like that, which is why I wouldn't be throwing $1 billion into a mall. How much are you really getting in return over a year of the investment that it's not just going to take to renovate it, but to employ all of the people that need to go into it, everything that goes into keeping it running year round?
Based on the renderings of what they've released for this project of what they're trying to do, the inside definitely looks like a mall with like a rodeo. It looks like they want to build up the area around it as well, and maybe the stuff's already there. I'm not familiar with what's surrounding it.
It's a dead area.
Like they want to it almost looks like they're trying to build Union Station here in St. Louis with also the Astrodome attached to it.
That's not a good idea.
Somebody on the text line said, guys, malls don't work. Just ask Chesterfield. Man, the Chesterfield strip mall area.
That hits close
the
to
outlet
home.
malls.
Love that place.
That was supposed to be a really cool area. And for a while there, they had some cool shops that ended up going in. And then it felt there for a little while, deserted. And then they added in the four hands over there. They've got a few new things over there that have started to come in. Now it's pretty cool. Like, that four hands over there is amazing, and it's a great place. If you got kids and you want to go to a brewery, they've got that huge outdoor area. I think that's something that we're going to see more of moving forward, especially as a young parent, I can speak to it. Having a place where you can go with your kids, where there's just an area for them to run around. Dude, there's not enough of those places, like in St. Louis or elsewhere. It's the four hands out here in Columbia. They have a place called Logboat that has something similar where you could just let your kids run around and kick a soccer ball around. Having that big open area that's designated for kids is awesome. Something like that is, I believe, for the strip malls and places like that, I think that's something they can use that space that ends up being better use of the space.
I don't know if I've been there.
Have you been over there before?
I haven't.
I don't think I've been there.
I don't
in a
go to
while.
the Chesterfield brings back sour memories.
Hey, you want to go to a mall?
No, I loved the Chesterfield Mall.
You just asked who asked that question last. I thought we were going to have a moment there. No.
I missed it, man.
Somebody on the text line said,
Just
I live in
boring.
Chesterfield, and I hope to never see you there, BK.
Wow. Whoa, brutal. BK will be there tonight.
Yeah.
I will not.
We'll be out there this
I will
weekend.
be driving to Kansas City. Somebody said, we have plenty of parks, BK. Not sure they all sell beer, though. The parks are great. But I do think it's cool to have an area where, like, there's something for the kids and the adults, right?
Just let them go into the empty mall and run around. It's just an empty building.
Yeah, I mean, there's already mall walkers.
You remember the mills? That's what I did most of the time you went there. You just, hey, go run around. There's nothing
100%.
here.
It's one of the reasons why I really like going to the Tower Grove Farmers Market on Saturdays. They've got stuff for kids to do. They've got that big, it's a park, and then you've got the farmers market that you can go walk around as well.
You're just looking for a spot where you just put your kid out there, like, just go run around.
I drink a beer.
Come
you
find you
play
in
with
2
at the
hours.
Park. I'll see you in an hour.
Come find you in 2 hours.
That's right. That's what I do.
I just do that in my backyard. Just come inside when you're done.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, the Blues action suggests they've chosen their path, but is it the right one? We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Back to more exclusive Blues talk. 101 ESPN is live from the Centene Community Ice Center. Brought to you by Bud Light and E&B Granite. Bernie Federko's only choice for granite countertops, cabinets, and flooring.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, we got a guy on the text line that's really upset with me.
Or gal, you don't know.
I had no idea it was so controversial to go to a brewery with your kids. Had no idea.
Child Protective Services might be showing up at your house after the show today.
Yeah, they're very upset with me. So apologies, sir
angry.
or madam. Was unaware that would touch a nerve for people.
Well, stop taking your kids so you can just go hammer beers while you just let them do whatever they want. Get a babysitter.
Do people have the impression that when you go to a brewery, you just like get absolutely sloshed? Because that's not my experience.
I heard they have great cheeseburgers at breweries.
Some places have excellent.
Some of them got great
food.
smash burgers.
Excellent food.
Yeah.
Oh, I might go take my 3 kids to a brewery
Heavy
this
Riff
week.
is one of my favorites.
Whoa!
In Dogtown, they've got really good barbecue over there.
It's a good spot.
We go to the one over by us. It's got really good sourdough pizza.
Well, this texter
at Good
thinks
News
you're
Brewery in
going
St.
and
Charles.
getting beer and then just handing it to your 1-year-old and saying, enjoy. Nobody's around.
He legitimately said, you get a couple of beers, what are you there, 20 minutes? 2 beers is too many. God bless, man. God bless. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes, we're talking to Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie. Joins us each and every Friday here in BK and Ferrario. It is a huge day for him at Macadoodles. This is their grand opening. They've got a bunch of stuff going on over there. So we'll talk to Mike about all of that and what he has seen from the Blues. I'm curious, as a former player, Alex, what he thought of the decision last night to not have Jordan Kyrou on the ice for the last 4 minutes. So we'll talk to Mike McKenna about that here in just a little bit. But I do want to talk a little bit about the Blues here with you. The Blues' actions are all in one direction. They seemingly suggest this is a team that believes it can and should make the playoffs this year. They have decided, hey, the last 4 minutes of a game, we got a chance to score a point. Kyrou's not going on the ice. It's happened each of the last 2 games now. We have a chance to put Zach Bolduc in the lineup? No, we're going with the guys that we think give us the best chance to win this game on this night. You see the defenseman decision today. Leo Loof going back down. We're bringing up a guy that's 28 years old, that's had a cup of coffee in the NHL already. He's capable of playing in this league, even if it's not going to be great. Leo Loof, we don't know. We don't know if you're even ready to be at the NHL level right now. So all of their decisions are seemingly pointing in the direction of we believe we need to get as many points as possible to help us potentially get to the playoffs. Alex, do you think that's the right path for this team to go?
No, I don't. I don't think the mindset should. I don't think the mindset should still be we need to get to the playoffs, because without the players that you are going to be without for the next, I would say probably month, maybe Thomas comes back sooner because he's traveling with them, you don't have a shot at the playoffs. I know that sounds harsh, but when you're without Thomas and Broberg, and now you're going to be without P.O. Joseph, who at least is a capable top 6 defenseman. Nick Leddy, who knows when he's coming back. That's a lot to overcome, and it's a hard brand of hockey to play stingy to try and stay in a playoff race. I do agree with the sentiment that they're saying, like, we need to at least still stay competitive. And Joey mentioned this last night on the pregame when we were talking just about, where the Blues are at. And he said, people don't really understand how difficult it is to get losing out of a locker room. And I know the Blues have been losing for the last few years, but losing to where you're drafting 16th overall following a year where you were 10th overall isn't the same as you're drafting 5th overall every single year. And I know this is a one-off. The expectation isn't to continue that way. But when you've got a locker room of guys that just fall into the trap of, hey, we're injured, we're just going to suck for the rest of this season, you do fall into a mindset of, well, not a game that I'm going to be able to put my effort into. And then you have to break that mold in the next game.
But what's the difference with the way that they're handling it now, where they've lost 7 of their last 9 games, or the way that they could be handling it where you get Zach Bolduc some more opportunities?
I'm not disagreeing with you on the Bolducs. The Bolduc thing should be playing in your top 6.
Or you play Kyrou in the final format. Like, I think some of what we're seeing right now is just like, it's not changing the outcomes of these games.
But see, I feel like we're getting stuck on the Kyrou from one game. Like that,
multiple. It's happened multiple times.
Fine, but there were also multiple times where he was on the ice to win the game, and you turned the puck over. To me, that was an accountability thing. from Drew Bannister. I don't think that was a stunting the development thing. Jake Neighbors was on the ice in the final 60 seconds of that game last night. Dylan Holloway was on the ice the shift before Jake Neighbors and Pavel Buchnevich. The Loof thing, I also feel like we're getting stuck on a guy that maybe is an NHL defenseman.
I'm with you on that. I think it's a little, it's weird, but none of these things individually are spots where I'd be like, oh no, you're losing your way. Like you've totally jumped
the process.
These are small individual moments that they're breadcrumbs that lead us to the same conclusion of what the team is trying to accomplish this year. Hell, they've said it publicly and privately. We want to be a playoff team. We think that this can be a playoff team. I just think at this point, like, you got to assess where you are as an organization. It's specifically where this team is right now with the injuries. This doesn't look like a playoff team to me. And that's okay. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes, because of, especially, you lose all the depth that you thought you had accumulated, and especially this year, you lose your top-end stars with Thomas and Broberg, and when they're out for a long period of time, it's hard to overcome that. We said this when the injuries hit, that this is going to be a really hard thing for the Blues to be able to overcome, and if you can go 500 without those guys, it's an overwhelming success. Well, they're 2-7 in their last 9, and some of them have looked really ugly. You don't have to, like, abort mission because of that. But I do think this could be a time where, especially while those guys are still out, you get the young guys some more playing time here. Yeah. Get some more opportunities. And that spot last night, I understand what Bannister's doing, and I don't even necessarily blame him. As a coach, that's probably what you do. But as an outsider, I can have the 10,000-foot view of saying, man, put Kyrou on the ice. That's a spot where he's going to eventually have to play. And he was sat out, I think, against Boston. Put him out there again now. You had your opportunity to show him what, hey, this is what we don't want to see, kind of like Sod. Hey, you didn't play your best game. We're going to demote you to the fourth line. You're going to play like 12 minutes. Next night, gets in there as the second-line player, gets you a couple of goals last night. I just want to see them get back to those kinds of decisions, and right now they're not doing that.
Yeah, and I just, at some point you're going to have to stop this whole, well, Bolduc's not in because we need to see more of him. Like, I'm not disagreeing with you guys in that front at all. Like, he's one of those guys that should be in your top 6 moving forward. Saad, you looked great last night. Guess what? We'll put you to the third line, and we'll figure out an opportunity to get you more ice time. Texier, you apparently traded for him because you felt like he was supposed to be a part of the future moving forward. You're not scratched anymore. Let's stop with the Kapanen going in and out of the lineup. You put Texier in. Let's stop with the Foxa line being a line that you play 17 minutes a night versus Texier and Bolduc and whomever playing 12 minutes a night. Doubt. So, like, those areas, I'm not disagreeing with you guys at all. That doesn't look good for Drew Bannister. It's just, there's a little bit of a balance to where it's like, look, yes, we realize that these guys need to play, and you get that, but, man, we got to find a way to avoid going into a 10, 11, 12, 13-game losing streak, because that's going to be a hard mold to break in terms of, well, we're going to suck this year. What you don't want to happen is it fall into this is a year and injuries have put us here, is getting consecutive Washington Capitals games. Sure, you lost 7 of 9, but in 5 of those 9, it looks like it was a 1. At least it's competitive. And what you don't want to happen is third period, you're down by a goal. You say, well, not our night, boys, and you give up 5 more goals. That's what at least it seems they're trying to avoid.
Yeah, but I think that could be the case with Bolduc on the ice. I think that can be the case with last night. Kyrou playing the game.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all. The Kyrou thing felt like it was...
some of the things that they're concerned about are just not real concerns.
Yeah. The Kyrou thing, to me, felt like you were disciplining your child, to where you've told him 5 different times where it's like, hey, man, stop. And then they'll listen. And it's like, okay, now we're going to have to discipline you.
But wasn't that discipline already put together during the Boston game? Like, how many games? I guess my question is this. Maybe this is really the more important conversation to have, Alex, because it's a fair point. But does that change? Like, if they're tied 3-3 tomorrow night at Boston in the final 4 minutes, is Kyrou playing?
Are you asking me that, or are you asking Bannister that?
Both.
Because if you're asking me, yeah, he's playing. You learned your lesson. You go back out there.
Do you think Bannister plays him?
That I don't know. And that's the part that I'm just not sure where Bannister is right now.
It feels very similar to what the Cardinals did with Jordan Walker.
Yeah.
Because if you guys remember, close games late, 2022, I guess it would have been 2023, Walker wasn't playing. Despite the fact that they stunk. They were a terrible baseball team. They said, you got to earn those innings. No, man. You need Jordan Walker to be good. And every time that you take him out in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, that is 3 innings that he otherwise would have had, that you have now slashed off of the bottom line of the total number of innings that he has for reps in right field. You already got him a late start, and now you're just putting him even further behind the 8 ball with his development. So I feel like that's what's happening here with Kyrou in some of these instances. I think that's what's happening right now with Zach Bolduc as well, for all the crap that we have given to the Cardinals. And I think a lot of it's justified for the way that they've handled young players in recent seasons. I think we're seeing some of that start to creep up with the St. Louis Blues right now. I get the way they're handling Dvorsky, and I have zero qualms with it whatsoever. Let him season down in the AHL. For the guys that you feel, though, are ready for the NHL, go ahead and let them fail. Not like spectacularly. Don't let them end up drowning in their own sorrows, but go let them make some mistakes, and let's see what it looks like afterwards.
We got this text here from the 314, and this isn't the guy that was going after you for your child decision-making. He said, look, I'm not a Bannister hater, but I thought Bannister was here to help develop young kids. Man, I remember that press conference when he was brought in, and the first thing that Doug Armstrong said was, he's here to bring accountability to our group. And I've
done that. If nothing else, he's done that.
And that's kind of what I feel like with the Kyrou. Now, your question is very valid. How many times is enough? I don't know. Kyrou's been having these issues for a lot of games since he's been at the NHL level. Is 2 games enough? Because you saw Pavel Buchnevich get it last year. In the next game, he responded. Brandon Saad did it in 1 game. Maybe they haven't seen it enough in 2 games. Or maybe it's just the decision that they view Jordan Kyrou as, look, he's a second-line player for us. He's not a top-line player, because the top-line players are the guys you put out there when you need to get the game to overtime.
Fair. I would also add that he has improved his overall game this year by a significant margin. There's still moments where it looks bad. I'm not denying that, but I think he looks so much better this year with his all-around game that I'd be willing to go ahead and, let's find out. This is the year to find out, because it's certainly not next year, the year after that. All right, he's Alex's T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, we'll talk about this with Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, here on 101 ESPN.
Pipes with former NHL goaltender Mike McKenna. How do you like me now?
Between the Pipes is refreshed by Macadoodle Spirits, fine wine, beer, and cigars. Now open in Garden Prairie.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, it is a big day for our friend and weekly guest on the show, Mike McKenna. He's a former NHL goalie, and now he is a man who is tied to the great Macadoodles. And today is their grand opening. If you guys want to check them out, please do so. They got a bunch of cool stuff going on over there at Macadoodles today. They've got Budweiser Clydesdales coming up from 3 to 5. Clownvis is joining them tomorrow at the brand new Macadoodles for their grand opening from 3 to 5 as well. Mike McKenna joins us now via the Callier and Thompson hotline. Mike, how you doing, man?
Oh, guys, I'm alive. My head's spinning, man. It's crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen bourbon hunters come in hot to your store, but when they line up clear about 300 yards down and it's like getting tickets to the Stones, man, it was mayhem. Like, I thought our aisles were wide in Macadoodles. I don't know if they were wide enough. So we're catching our breath. We're having a great time. I'm going to sleep really hard tonight. I can guarantee you that.
So it's been a success, you would say, Mike, so far?
Well, I mean, we're only a couple hours in here, guys. I still have time to ruin everything. So I would say the first several hours are great, but let's not count our chickens till they're hatched here, man.
How's the Clydesdale? What time's the Clydesdale get there?
3 o'clock.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
You should walk them through
here's the
Macadoodles
thing.
just to see how wide those aisles are.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to really happen. I've never had a Clydesdale arrive at my location before. So, like, I don't know if it's going to come in full regalia. If it's just a single one from Grant's Farm, I don't know. So the intrigue is really hot on this. We have a grassy area. I don't know if that's where they're going. I believe we're going to have Clydesdale right in front of our place. So today is just a day of wonderment. Yeah, we're going to parade that equine beauty right down the aisle.
All right, Mike, we'll talk to you a little bit more about Macadoodles and what you guys are doing here in just a little bit. It's a really cool day for them. It's the grand opening. Again, today is the grand opening for Macadoodles. If you're looking for anything, you got some whiskey that you're hunting for. Mike said there was a bunch of people over there earlier. He said they're doing cool stuff with tequila, agave as well, wines. They've got it all for you. So check them out if you would like to. Macadoodles. You can check out some of the details on his Twitter account at Mike McKenna56. That's on Twitter at Mike McKenna56. But we got to talk a little hockey with you, Mike, because the St. Louis Blues had an interesting game last night. They end up going to overtime, so they do get the point. In our open today, though, we talked about how they handled the last 4 minutes of that game, Mike, because there was no sign of Jordan Kyrou on the ice. This is the second consecutive game that the Blues have been tied late where they did not have Jordan Kyrou on the ice for the final 4 minutes of it. I'm curious your perspective on this as a former player. What did you make of that decision by Drew Bannister?
To me, it's as simple as this. If you need to score a goal right now with the St. Louis Blues, who's going to be on the ice? You're going to have Jordan Kyrou on the ice if you need to score a goal because he's one of the best offensive players on the team, if not the best, given where the team is with their lineup. Why would he not be on the ice in the last couple minutes? The reality of this situation to me, again, and this is without speaking to anybody, guys. Like, I'm so far out of being around the team from right now. This is just me piecing it together. I really think Drew Bannister is trying to tell him, you have to be responsible in the last couple minutes of games. You can't give the game away again because we've had 2 of those in the last couple weeks. I think that's what it is. I think it's a longer-term play. I think it's pain and not having him on the ice, but trying to teach that you have to be responsible even when you're pressing and trying to score a goal to win a hockey game.
From a locker room's perspective, Mike, is that the right move by Drew Bannister with this team right now?
That's a really good question because without being in that room, I'm not sure of it. You come in as a coach and your job is to get the most out of your players. And there's been strides in Jordan Kyrou's game. He's been good. I mean, look at Buchnevich's goal last night. Jordan Kyrou makes a great play, pushes the D back, gives Buchnevich a lane right to the middle of the ice, right? Like, you don't notice those things. The details have been there. It's just the bad turnovers that have crushed him. And I think Bannister sent a message. I don't know if it's the right one if I'm not in that locker room. I just know that type of situation, if it doesn't get better, that can really change in a negative way. So there either has to be improvement from Kyrou, or there's got to be a little bit more grace from Bannister in my eyes, because this can't continue to be. You can't keep benching the guy right in the last couple minutes when you're one of your best players. Like, you can't keep doing that. So one of the two is going to have to give here.
Is it possible, Mike, that Bannister and the front office are kind of getting lost in the noise right now of one side wanting to develop and the other side wanting to compete?
Yeah, I mean, developing is – what are we developing here? Responsibility. Is that really what we're looking for? Versus compete. Yeah, man, you want to compete. And when you're on the bench and you don't get the chance to do what you're paid to do, that's a really crushing feeling. That's demoralizing, man. And I know it's easy to think, when you're getting paid all that money. I hear that all the time. I used to hear it all the time. No, man, you got feelings and you got a hell of a lot of pride. Jordan Kyrou has a lot of pride, and he should, because he's a damn good hockey player. He needs to be on the ice. So in that way, it's why I always get worried about it when you start to do those things, when you start benching players. You just never know when it's going to reach a certain breaking point, and you don't want it to fester. You don't want it to go south.
I am curious, and this is kind of related, but a slightly different situation. As we're talking to Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, joins us each and every Friday here on BK and Ferrario via the Callier and Thompson hotline. What do you make of the way that they've handled Zach Bolduc so far this year? Because it's been up and down at times with him on the ice, no doubt about it. But most of the time he's playing fourth-line minutes, and he has been held out of 4 or 5 games now. Do you like the way that they've handled Zach Bolduc so far?
Well, no, but I also think that there hasn't been a huge amount of choice for the Blues, at least the lineup-wise. I mean, there's been so much flux to it, and with the injuries, trying to fit a guy into a lineup is sometimes a necessity. Now, here's the thing. Bolduc doesn't belong playing fourth-line minutes. If he's just going to play in the fourth line, get back to Springfield and go continue to develop your offensive side. That would be the best thing. And it's not even as much about development, guys. It's really just about getting your swagger and dominating. When you're a goal scorer in the NHL, you got to be dominant. And you learn to do that at the American League. Show me a dominant NHL player, and I'll show you the same player that dominated the American League 85% of the time, because that's the number of players, the percentage of players that come from the minors. And, Bolduc, has he dominated the American League? He's been close to it, but I think he needs to take that next step to really go with the Blues. He's shown that he can keep up with the play. He's shown that he has the skill set to play at the NHL level. But the results just aren't there when he's been given the minutes at the top lines. And it's because he's young. The guy's he's still got a lot of room to grow. So I just think it's going to be a tough spot for the Blues, though, with injuries and everything else, to really find a home for him. And I'd like to see things stabilize more for the club.
Mike, with those injuries, the Blues obviously are in a weird spot because you're without so many impactful players with Broberg and with Thomas and now with Nick Leddy and potentially P.O. Joseph for long term. This team made it pretty clear they wanted to compete for a playoff spot. Do you still veer in that direction where you're trying to stay competitive, or does this thing shift a little bit now to where you do kind of move into retool and development mode?
I think the Blues are already past the total rebuild thing. I don't see that being a good path for the Blues. Are they going to make the playoffs this season? Oh man, that's tough. Okay, I get it. They're 4 points out of a wild card spot, but unless they get healthy quick, and unless they tighten up a little more, it's going to be tough. I mean, I think they're going to be right in that 20-22 range. But to throw in the towel and try to continue to aggregate picks when Doug Armstrong already kept all the second-round picks that he'd had in the previous year, the first-round picks, and made some really, really good draft selections, I don't see that as a great option. And I don't see tearing this team down that's already a little bit thin on young talent at the NHL level. I don't see that as a great play. And I don't see enough outward talent of the veteran players to really get much of value.
All right, Mike, we'll let you go on this. It's a big weekend for you guys over at Macadoodles. For anybody that's coming out, whether it's today, maybe tomorrow, what can they see at Macadoodles for your guys' grand opening this weekend?
Well, you're going to see a lot of tastings, and you're going to see a lot of smiling people, and you're going to be greeted when you come through the door. Our team has done a fantastic job. Right now we've got different vendors and beer makers in our building. We've got 4 tastings going on right now, and that's going to continue through the end of today. Tomorrow, we've got Demetrius Kane from Nobleton's, from Planters Whiskey out of Union, Missouri. He's coming in to do a private tasting for all of our customers from 2 to 4 p.m., sampling his products. This guy makes killer whiskey, man. It's bourbon, but it's not called bourbon because it's out of the Ozarks. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get great customer service, a fun atmosphere, and you can come in and try things all day long. We'll have it out. And Clownvis is going to be here tomorrow from 3 to 5. It doesn't get any better than that, everybody. D. Clownvis, who talks smack to Sharon Osbourne on America's Got Talent. Go and YouTube that, folks, then come see us at Macadoodles at Dardine Prairie tomorrow.
If you want to check out more details, macadoodles.com is where you can go. You can get all the info on the brand new site that they have ready for you today. It's the grand opening for Macadoodles, and Mike McKenna is a huge part of it. Mike, we appreciate the time as always, man. We'll talk with you again next week. Enjoy the rest of the grand opening this weekend.
Thank you so much. I can't wait. I hope to see you in here soon. I'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. That's Mike McKenna. Appreciate his time, as always, joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Check them out over at Macadoodles. Again, macadoodles.com is the place where you can go if you want to get their information, check out exactly how you can get there. Super easy to get there out over on the St. Charles side of things, St. Charles County. Mike McKenna doing great work with Macadoodles, and he joins us each and every week on behalf of Macadoodles on BK and Ferrario. In 15 minutes, we'll hit the rewind, but next, it's time for our NFL weekend look ahead. Tough week in terms of picking these games. I'm trying to do it for the Fastlane Riz Show Challenge. It ain't easy. We'll get to some of our picks. Best game of the weekend. Biggest upset of pick of the weekend. The game that is going to be the overreaction game this weekend. We'll tell you about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Greg Francis here with a SportsCenter update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues were in a good spot last night after 2 periods against the Sabres, leading 3-2. But after the Sabres tied it in the 3rd period and the Blues took a penalty at the end of regulation, the power play that carried over into overtime burned them as Rasmus Dahlin scored, and the Sabres took down the Blues 4-3. Blues do pick up a point, and they will look to pick up 2 more tomorrow and 4 over the weekend as they've got back-to-back games on the road Saturday and Sunday. Tomorrow, pregame at 11, puck drop at noon against the Bruins. And then on Sunday, pregame at 3, puck drop at 4 in Carolina against the Hurricanes. And then tomorrow as well, following that Blues and Bruins game, you can hear some college football here on 101 ESPN, Georgia and Tennessee. That pregame starting at 6 o'clock. I'm Grant Francis. The SportsCenter update's been driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Along with Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Let's dive into some of our NFL weekend look-ahead questions. If you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know what we do here. The matchup you're most looking forward to seeing, the upset you believe that we will see, and the overreaction Monday game. We'll give you our picks for those different storylines. Alex, start with you. What's the matchup you're most looking forward to this weekend?
I'm going to leave one of the chalk answers to you guys, probably the Chiefs honk over here, but I'm actually going to say the Ravens-Steelers is the one I'm most looking forward to.
Dude. It's a really fun matchup.
I can keep denying the Steelers and Russell Wilson all I want, but they keep finding ways to win. So this is going to go one of 2 ways. Steelers are going to be shown as frauds, or the Ravens are not going to be as dominant of an AFC team as we think they truly are. I personally think they're the 3rd best team in that conference. And if you go out and lose to the Steelers, that solidifies it. But if you go out there and beat up on the Steelers, well, now I don't need to believe in Pittsburgh anymore. So that's the one I'm really excited for.
Yeah, to stick on this for a second, Pittsburgh does so many things specifically that beat the Baltimore Ravens. They have this high-flying passing attack, but they don't attack the middle of the field where the Ravens are strong. They attack down the sidelines, where it's going over the top with those Russell Wilson moon balls or whatever you want to call them. So they're going to run it, throw it over the top. Run it, throw it over the top. That is a formula that works against the Ravens this year because their corners are terrible. So I actually think this has a chance to be a really compelling game. I've struggled figuring out who I'm going to pick with this one. If it was in Baltimore, I think I would take Baltimore and not really think twice about it. It's in Pittsburgh, though. 3-point line. I'm leaning towards Pittsburgh in this game. So I'm right there with you, Alex. I think this is a great matchup. T-Bone, what's yours?
Oh, I'll take the chalk answer. I'll go Chiefs at Bills. Look,
We're going to leave it for me, okay?
The Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, you're a Chiefs fan. Of course he's going to pick that one. Let's make him work for it, okay?
We left it there for him for a reason.
It's like the last tough game on their schedule for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Got the Steelers.
Yeah, like
the Broncos
I said,
on Christmas.
It's still the last tough game on their schedule. Okay. And they still haven't played good football yet this year, right? And yet somehow they win this game. It feels like inevitable that they're going to go perfect this year. So Buffalo's their toughest task. I think it looks like Amari Cooper's going to play based on everything that I've seen. So you're going to get the Bills at full strength. You're finally going to say, okay, can Josh Allen beat Patrick Mahomes? And does that actually lead to something? Because he's done it in the past. To me, it's the most intriguing football game of the week.
For my pick, I took the Chiefs plus 2.5 in this one. I think they win it straight up. But my real pick in this game is the over. I do not think these defenses will get enough stops to stay under 45.5. I think this is the kind of game that's going to be won like 31-27 or 27-26. Like it's going over 50 points in my opinion.
I say under. I don't think the Chiefs give up that many points. And if that's the case, I don't know if their
situation is legitimately concerning right now. I know that the Bills don't have a great wide receiver to be able to exploit it, but they've got some decent ones, and they've got guys that I think could potentially make a couple of big plays.
Bulk. They've got Shakir, they've got Coleman, they've got Cooper, and then
no Coleman in this one.
Oh, so he's not playing in this one?
No Coleman in this one, no Kincaid in this one.
But you do have James Cook, and that running game's been pretty versatile for him.
And he helps them out in the passing game, and that's something that's hurt the Chiefs as well as running backs in the passing game. All right, my matchup of the week. Guys, I love this Sunday Night Football game. I know that the record isn't great for the Bengals, but we all know at any point in time they can put up 40. They are getting T. Higgins back this weekend. He is officially going to play, and their offense looks completely different with him in the lineup. Healthy T. Higgins, healthy Jamar Chase, healthy Joe Burrow. They've looked better the last couple of weeks, put up 34 and 41 points over the last 2 weeks against Vegas and Baltimore. I want to see what that offense looks like against a really good LA Chargers defense. I think this is a fascinating matchup because these are two of the under-the-radar sleeper contenders in the AFC. If you want to get, like, underneath the hood, you don't think it's the Chiefs, you don't think it's the Bills, you don't think it's the Ravens, who else could come out of the AFC? My pick would be one of these two teams. I am fascinated to see who wins this one. I don't have a strong lean. I think I'm going to end up taking the Bengals because they have T. Higgins. But I don't know, man. I have no strong lean in this game. So that's my matchup of the week. Alex, what's your upset you think we're going to see?
Upset is the Colts over the Jets. I've made it pretty clear that I'm done on the Jets, and it's a 4-point underdog for Colts. And I get it. Anthony Richardson is back, and that's got everybody's mouth real sour these days. I do put a little stock into Anthony Richardson being sat and coming back with a little bit of vengeance towards the coaching decision of putting him on a bench. I think the Colts win this one straight up, and a 4-point spread underdogs. I think that's going to be an easy cover.
Yeah, the upset for me this week, look, I'm throwing this game out here for the upset. Don't watch this football game. I'm begging you, don't do it. The Raiders are going to Miami, and they're taking down the Dolphins. The Dolphins still with Tua back. I thought it'd look a little crisper, a little cleaner offensively, and it still wasn't all that impressive this past week against the LA Rams. So maybe it's still Tua's working out the kinks, and maybe things get back on track this weekend, but it wouldn't shock me if the Raiders go on the road and take down Miami.
I've given you one of my upsets, the Chiefs on the road against the Bills, but that feels like a pick-em basically, so I'm not going to go with that one for this specific question. I'll go with the Steelers at home. 3-point underdog against the Ravens. I think they win it straight up. It's ballsy. I don't know even in my own gut how much I truly believe it, but I am leaning more and more toward them being a matchup problem for the Baltimore Ravens. They have a really good pass rush, which can give Lamar some problems. Maybe that causes him a couple of turnovers. He has not had a lot of success against the Steelers in his history. He also hasn't played against them very much. He has 5 opportunities against the Steelers so far because of injury. The COVID year he didn't play against them. Just weird stuff pops up. I've got the Steelers as a underdog to win straight up against the Baltimore Ravens. All right, Alex, your overreaction Monday game. What is it?
I said this in our pick'em. The overreaction is going to be that Chiefs-Bills game. I think one side of this coin is going to be the Chiefs win, and they're the best team in the AFC, which some people might still truly believe. But if the Bills win, that's where the real overreaction is going to come in, to where, the Buffalo Bills, this is the year they take down Patrick Mahomes and get to the Super Bowl and win it all for Josh Allen. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. I love me some Josh Allen in Buffalo, and even if they take down the Chiefs in the regular season, it's the regular season. I'll believe it when postseason happens. I feel like I'm saying that for 2 of the 3 top teams in the AFC right now. It's great what you're doing, but I don't really care what you do in the regular season. What I care about is what you do in the postseason.
I think the game for me, it's going to the NFC West, and it's the Seahawks at the 49ers. If the 49ers win, I can see the reaction already on Monday. They are back. Yep. Christian McCaffrey, the offense is finally clicking. Here comes San Francisco. But I can also see on the other side where they lose, everybody's going to panic and say, oh, my gosh, they just lost to the Seahawks. They beat the Seahawks last time without Christian McCaffrey. Maybe they're not back. Maybe they're not going to figure this thing out. I think they're ultimately going to be fine. I think they're going to win that football game, but I think we're going to see a lot of overreaction about that win on Monday.
So we've talked enough about this so we don't have to go down the path too far, but if the Steelers win, there will be an overreaction on Monday of the Steelers. And we'll be talking about what's the ceiling for this team. Like, have we underestimated their potential as a Super Bowl contender? Everybody views them as a playoff contender. Maybe they pull off an upset in the postseason. I don't think very many people right now are realistically looking at them as a Super Bowl contender, though. And a lot of that is because of their wins this year. Atlanta, Denver, LA Chargers, Vegas, the Jets, the Giants, and Washington. They have not beaten a true A-list team in the NFL just yet. That could change on Sunday. So that's one potential as an outlier for the overreaction. Game I really think it's going to be, though, is the Island game, Sunday night. Whoever wins that Chargers versus Cincy game, they're going to be the team that is getting all of the love come Monday morning. Oh, Chargers, watch out, Jimmy Harbaugh. Look at what he's been able to do. A tough defense. Justin Herbert playing his best ball of the year. Man, even look at their losses. A close call on the road against Pittsburgh. That's a really good team. Lost by a touchdown against Kansas City. Well, we think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. Lost by 2 points on the road against what we now know to be a pretty feisty Arizona Cardinals team. Watch out for those Chargers. They might be a real contender. And if it's the other side, it's the Bengals. Oh, here they come. They do it every year. Here come the Bengals. We should have seen this coming. They almost beat Baltimore last week. Now they find a way to get it done on the road at the Chargers. Schedule opens up down the stretch. Dallas, Tennessee, Cleveland, Denver, 4 of those games. That gets them to 9. Pull off one upset against Pittsburgh. Boom, you're in the postseason. Whoever wins that game on Sunday night, that's going to be the one that ends up getting the overreaction this week in the NFL. It's a really good Sunday. I haven't been able to say that over the last couple of weeks very often. This is a truly great Sunday in the NFL. Got some fun games, fun matchups over here.
Better Sunday for Blues hockey, because that's what I'll be a part of. Blues and Hurricanes with pregame start at 3 o'clock right here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN.
3 o'clock start.
Yeah.
They're going up against the Chiefs.
No, it's a 4 o'clock start. 3 o'clock is pregame.
Oh.
So you can listen for me and then watch the game.
Yeah, I'll do
ESPN
that.
Plus game again?
No, I don't think so. That was just last night. It was just on ESPN Plus, not on.
I got to tell you, Alex, I don't think I'm going to watch that game.
Well, that's fine. You should be listening to it on 101 ESPN. You're home for the St. Louis Blues with great pregame coverage, which is sponsored by First Community Credit Union.
I'm also off on Monday. I don't think I'm going to watch or listen.
On Monday?
Yeah, I'm out on Monday.
Shocker, right?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, what else is
Typical
death taxes
Monday.
and BK taking a vacation? At least you take a vacation day, you know? On Monday, you take it and you don't go to the morning show like you did in the past.
He's Alex Esteban. I'm BK. Grant Francis back in the studio for us. He's done a fantastic job today. We are going to hit the BK and Ferrario Rewind coming up next. Put a bow on this thing and hand it over to the fast lane here on 101 ESPN.
run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Loom, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
To hang out with some friends today with Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. Grant Francis back in the studio for us. We're broadcasting live at the E&B Graded Studios out of the Centene Community Ice Center. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Center.
Alex, Blues lose last night. We've made our thoughts well known on where we stand with the Jordan Kyrou decision. Me and T-Bone, like really how we've seen the team all season long. We're kind of on one side. Alex is on another. I think we all see the differing viewpoints, though. It's a tough call in that spot. I get what Drew Bannister is trying to accomplish. It's a tough spot there. I do want to ask you, Alex, let's start with the college football slate. Mizzou playing tomorrow against South Carolina on the road. Tough game, 3:15 on SEC Network. 14-point line in favor of South Carolina. Gabe DeArmond reported earlier today. He's hearing it's possible Brady Cook could start for Mizzou in this one. How are you feeling about the Tigers' chances in the other Columbia tomorrow?
If they get Brady Cook back, I feel a lot better about their chances. I think what you saw was Drew Pine having his best game ever, and I'm not sure you can repeat that, especially against a South Carolina team. So if it was Drew Pine, I didn't trust it, but if that's what they're going with and Brady Cook is available, then you could play the Timmy Trumpet sounder because they're about to go out and perform.
Please don't.
Or you could just hear BK blow his nose. It's the same thing.
Yeah. I think
playing some of that music during the break.
He brutal, listeners.
BK was
brutal.
seconds away from having his Mac computer get smashed on the ground.
If Brady Cook plays, I think it's a 50-50 game. You know, I think they've got a legitimate shot to win that game if Brady Cook's available. If he's not, I would lean heavily towards South Carolina, putting it into the Mizzou playoff hopes.
All right, a few big games in the NFL this weekend. Alex, let's start with the 12 o'clock slate. We'll go through these quick hitter style. Ravens versus the Steelers. Steelers at home, 3-point underdog. Who do you have? Let's do these straight up. Steelers or Ravens?
Ravens.
I'm going Ravens as well.
I'm going Steelers. I think it's going to be tight, but I'm going to go with the Steelers as the home
shot
team.
in the butt.
Yep.
Chiefs versus the Bills. Who you got?
Bills.
Chiefs.
Chiefs for me as well. Sunday night, it is the Bengals at the Chargers. Who you got, Alex?
Chargers.
I'm going Chargers as well. I'm not buying the Bengals bounce back.
I'm done.
I've got the Bengals. You guys know they're the team that scares
you
me.
are
I've
so
got them
getting shot
in that
this
one
week
as well. Last thing, Blues back in action on Sunday, a game that Alex will be a part of. They're also Saturday too.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
Yeah.
Big weekend for the
back to back with three defensemen.
I will. If we're going straight up on those, I'll take whoever they're playing.
I'll take Bruins and Hurricanes. You're at the point of no return with these injuries, man. This is about as hard to overcome adversity as you can ask for. You have to basically play 1-0 type of hockey to win.
You know who I think has a good game on Saturday?
Kyrou.
Jordan Kyrou. I think
Will he
Jordan
play the
Kyrou
final 4 minutes or no?
Nope. But he is going to have a
if
really
they're trailing,
big response
absolutely
in the
not.
first 55. So
Trailing,
if
he
they're
better
trailing,
be.
he'll be on the ice.
Yeah.
If they're up
or tied,
no chance.
I don't think he'll be on the ice regardless.
With Alex
Sunquist,
Ferrario.
go tie it.
It's a Foxa Walker Torpchenko type of game.
And Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Don't forget Macadoodle's grand opening. Mike McKenna's out there. They're going to have a Clydesdale in about an hour out there as well. Tomorrow they've got Clownvis, so go check them out. He's done great stuff with us all year long. Go support one of our great sponsors here on the show with Macadoodles. Alex will be back with you guys tomorrow and Sunday for Blues versus Bruins and Blues versus Carolina Hurricanes. I will be out on Monday, back in on Tuesday. The guys will have you handled on Monday from 11 to 2. The Fast Lane has you handled from 2 to 6. No Jamie in today. Coming up next year on 101 ESPN.